Tune will keep it. Makes the break. It is in the end zone. Touchdown, Houston.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Now Harvey, the motion man. Plumlee keeps it. Right side, got a block, touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Bryant, empty backfield, throwing deep over the middle. Got him! Touchdown, Tyler Scott. A 41-yard touchdown connection from Bryant to Scott.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
With a double pass here. Back to Hall. Got a bevy of blockers in front of him. Hall with a house call. Touchdown Cougars.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Kansas State last in the Big 12 on third down. 32%. Martinez heated up. Sheds a hit. Got it downfield, and it's caught by Brooks. Shakes loose. He could go. Phillip Brooks. Goodbye touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, we are early, and yet, no, we're not. The Big 12 football schedule has been released as they promoted the last 24 hours. We are here today, 1 until 4, instead of 3 until 6. Hope you enjoy the special edition of the Big 12 football schedule. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. We will hear from a couple of either coaches or ADs in the conference, their reactions, your reactions, and, of course, much, much more. Paul and Craig are already in the middle of looking at what has been released. Garrett Ross is here. Jack McKenzie is here. And you guys, what have you seen so far that of interest? I know we're going to piece together and look at everybody and get your reactions along the way.
Well, just right off the top, and thankfully Baylor, and I love that I'm repping the reading glasses here like an old man, but Baylor plays Texas very early. They got UCF, no Oklahoma on the schedule for Baylor. That one's wild. October 21st is a pretty cool day in Houston, Texas, as the Longhorns will play there at Houston, at their stadium, not at Reliant or NRG, whatever it is now. And I'm just now getting into some of the rest of this.
All right, let's look at Baylor. Let's start with them, and we'll also get your feedback. The chat room, the text line, 254-339-1122. Baylor has the Texas State game to open up with, but eventually when they get They get into, of course, Utah's a non-conference game, and they also added, who's the third team? I can't even see that logo.
It's a shark logo. I have no idea who that is.
Coastal Carolina?
Huh? Long Island.
Long Island, okay. Texas, they have Texas, UCF, Texas Tech, then an off week, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Houston, Kansas State, TCU, and they end their regular season against West Virginia. We'll get into home and away. We'll let you worry about that yourself. For example, one of the new coming teams, let's look at UCF, and Gus Malzahn, I believe, is going to join us today at 2:30 Central. Their conference games start with Oklahoma, Brigham Young, off week, Iowa State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, I'm looking at the wrong one, I'm sorry. Kansas State's their first conference game, UCF. Then it's Baylor, KU, off week, and then they play Oklahoma, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Houston. Texas, their conference schedule, they open up with Baylor. Then they play Kansas, and then there's the game, the Red River rivalry with Oklahoma. Off week, and then Houston, as Paul mentioned, Brigham Young, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State, and then also Texas Tech. Texas Tech has West Virginia, Houston, Baylor, K-State, Brigham Young, off week, TCU, Kansas, UCF, and they close out the season against the University of Texas. So those are just some of them. We're going to try to piece them together. You can see that, in fact, where Garrett has it up on the screen, thanks to Jack McKenzie. Those are 4 schools right there that we have among those who are a part of the 2023 college football schedule. And I got to tell you, thank God it's here. Mack Rhodes has been saying by the end of January, Big 12 meetings Thursday and Friday this week. And so now, guys, kind of pick and choose your thoughts. We'll look at the chat room here in just a second and your thoughts about everything.
Those are the 4 Texas schools all together. My first thoughts are Baylor has 5 of their first 6 at home. In addition to that, which is kind of wild. TCU 4 of their first 6 at home, but 5 of their first 6 at home before the bye. So, while the opponents, Texas, Utah, and Tech are all going to be tough that are coming in here, that's still pretty favorable schedule, at least where you're going to be before the bye week. TCU, they go to UCF and to Houston. So that's kind of interesting on the new schools.
Craig?
Yeah, I think we need to kind of probably pocket this because we can go all over the place. So I think with Baylor, first of all, let's start there. I think that, it's a nice looking schedule. It's a favorable schedule as far as, looking at that last month. I think that, you got a couple of tough ones there with K-State and TCU and a couple of wild cards with Houston and West Virginia. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be, an interesting, 6-game stretch after your bye. Seeing Cincinnati will be pretty cool, seeing them for the first time. Yeah, I mean, I guess the big things that stand out is not playing Oklahoma is obviously an interesting deal there. Not playing Oklahoma State, also an interesting deal there as well. So, who all's not on their schedule? We got Houston.
Well, they have 3 of the 4. Okay. They have Houston, UCF, and also Brigham Young. Is that right?
Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas, and BYU, I believe, right? Is that it?
Yep. And so those are the games. They've played Brigham Young the last couple of years. Texas is playing BYU again later in the October. And, of course, they had some past games back when Taysom Hill was just wreaking havoc on a lot of different people, including the Longhorns.
Baylor also is UCF's first Big 12 home game. Obviously, the first Big 12 game for them, like you said before, Smokey, was Kansas State. So, yeah, at the Bounce House, the very first Big 12 opponent who will be in there is Baylor on September 30th.
All right, so the text line is going. For example, Juan, Houston fan, who made a nice comment about us on Twitter late last night. Houston put out a little bit of a promo video. They had some of our audio involved. He said, it's so beautiful, haha. Also, from Rhino Reselling, 8 home games for Baylor. Let's tailgate. And also, some CT Ziggy. Are we thinking Texas Tech October 7th or Iowa State 10/28 for Baylor's homecoming game? I don't know about that. I hadn't even thought about that, but I understand why that will be a question for a lot of, especially the alums, among others. Paula, with no Oklahoma, that means Baylor beat them 2 years in a row before they go to the SEC. That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, because of 2021, the team that they had when they kind of tied Caleb Williams and company into a pretzel and then winning in Norman last year.
You know what's wild, like, to think about, and I know we've mentioned it on the show before, but the fact that this schedule, more than likely, you know, the way that we're used to seeing college football schedules, and that will change as every other conference goes into, like, 1 year, then the schedule's different, and then it's the reverse of the, 2 years ago schedule that they'll have. But the fact that this schedule is more than likely a complete and total one-off, and there's not going to be, honestly, the return trips could be all wonky and split, and we can ask Mr. Pezman when we have him on later in the show if that's the case. Like, does this mean that – so Houston's coming to Baylor, but does that mean that the next time that they play, it will necessarily be in Houston, or because of the 2 extra teams that you're lopping off at the end of the year, then does that mean that you have to do this all again and then it restarts?
I would think, and that's a great question, but I thought, in fact, about, like, for example, Baylor played in Austin last year. If they were going to play Texas, which I can't imagine they wouldn't because of how long that's been going on, Craig, I thought there was no way they were going to have to go back to Austin. But sometimes the schedule does flip. The next year it does flip.
Yeah, it can. So, I mean, that was, something that obviously was in play there, and you just didn't know until you finally saw this thing drop. And it's a lot of information to sort through, and it's kind of hard to digest it all at once. I'm sitting here just focusing in on Baylor's schedule and still trying to sort through some things there. But, I mean, there's 13 other teams to also to look at. But, yeah, I mean, not playing Oklahoma is very interesting. I do think it's probably a game that you would prefer to have had, but if you're not going to have it, and maybe this is, in fact, their last year, then as Paul said, you beat them twice, home and away, on their way out. So, you've got that going for you, I guess, as far as bragging rights, goes here at the end. But I think you had to have Texas on here, especially if this is, in fact, maybe the end. I think one very interesting thing as well is, the number of home games that Baylor has, that's really going to play in their favor. That changes, I think, the perception of their season next year, the amount of home games that they have. If they don't take full advantage of that, there's really not going to be, a lot of room for excuse making there. That's very favorable. Not playing Oklahoma, I think you could also probably view that as favorable, quite frankly, because they're typically one of the better teams, even if they weren't last year. You'd probably, if you're like, what's the easiest schedule we could have? You probably don't have Oklahoma on that schedule if you could make it up, right?
I agree with you.
To miss them out there, I think it's interesting they're playing 3 new schools.
I like it.
Most
and 2
teams
of them on the road.
Playing 2, I think, and I'm sure that varies because it has to vary just to make all of this work. But that is interesting that they are going to play 3 of the 4, and the one that they're not playing is the one that's kind of been set up as their potential de facto rival in BYU. But maybe that's because we've seen them play the last 2 years, that there's just not a necessity to see that right away once again, and you can kind of wait on that one since it's been fairly recent. But, yeah, I think that's cool as well. And now we know their 3rd non-conference opponent. I asked Mac Rhodes about that a week ago, and Long Island it is. So we had no idea who that was going to be, and he had made it sound like that was pretty much taken care of. So good to learn that. And, yeah, that's another game you would chalk up as a win. So, yeah, I think this is very favorable. But that Week 2 game against Utah, we knew that was coming regardless of what was ever dropped today, and that will really be a tone setter for them. But, Texas and Utah there in that first month, they're going to be pretty tested and could very well walk out of that 2-2 if they're not careful. So yeah, that'll be fun. A lot of home games. I'm all for that.
All right, so we're on until 4 today rather than 3 to 6. We appreciate you. A bunch of you already on. UCF Guido is already saying where we should do a show from Orlando for the game on the road against UCF, and of course there will be some new road trips. Cincinnati on the road. And again, UCF, Baylor played there when they beat North Carolina. Was it? It wasn't that one, though, was it, Paul?
No, I think that was the Citrus.
That's right. That was before.
Well, whatever they call the Citrus Bowl now.
Yeah, but they did play in Orlando and hammered North Carolina with that Johnny Jefferson and running game when they had no quarterback. So they have been and they have played in Orlando.
Paxton mentioned Texas's last 6 games. I'll throw it out there. I mean, look at Texas's schedule. Rice and Wyoming are the 2 non-cons that, everybody would kind of schedule, right? Everybody has the Rice, but they've got Bama on the road, Baylor on the road. They've got Kansas at home and Kansas. So then I would say their last 9 games for Texas are really tough. Baylor's a bowl team. Kansas a bowl team. Oklahoma's their biggest rival. Houston in Houston is going to be tough no matter, I don't know what the state of the Houston roster will be as it comes, because that's a team that's very much in flux. But going to Houston in October is going to be hard for them. BYU at home, that's a bowl team. Kansas State, the defending conference champion. TCU on the road. We know where they finished out the year. Iowa State on the road, always a tough place to play.
Weather could be a factor.
Yeah, late November. And then Tech at home to end it out. And if Joey McGuire takes the steps that the people in Lubbock hope and expect that he takes, that one to close out the year on Black Friday, or maybe on Black Friday, is going to be a doozy.
Well, 3 of the last 4 games are against the 3 hottest teams that ended in the Big 12, with Kansas State, TCU, and Texas Tech. And, of course, Texas was a bowl team, too, before they lost to the University of Washington.
And they gave them the Houston game. So, Well done, Big 12. Thought that was a must, and that's why I think it's interesting to kind of look through these, one by one. Is that one is, these going from start to finish with Texas. That's an interesting little run in front of them. Luckily for them, Bama's going to be somewhat changing over. There's no Will Anderson. There's no Bryce Young. And I don't care how good Bama is. I mean, that's still major positions and major leaders that are leaving for them. Who knows what Baylor's like in Waco, at the end of the first month. I mean, this is a team that's also undergoing a lot of change. So they could very well be 4-0. They could be 3-1. They could be 2-2. I mean, you could probably say that about most of these schedules, but they get a bye after Oklahoma, and then head right into that Houston game. But yeah, at BYU, ought to be interesting. It's great for the Cougars to get that home game. K-State also on the road, so that's an interesting little back-to-back. And then, as you guys mentioned, TCU, Iowa State at home, and then Tech on the road to close it out. So, I mean, I don't think that they really bullied Texas with this schedule. A lot of people are talking about, joking about how tough they would make this. They did give them, though, that Houston trip. So, yeah, I think that's going to be – or they're hosting – the great thing is confusing me, hosting BYU and Kansas State. But, yeah, the Houston road trip, I'm glad that they did that.
Yeah, some are talking about Baylor's 8 games. Remember now, they had a non-conference, I think this year, was going to be at Louisiana Tech, a home and away. That was canceled by Tech last year. So they ended up playing Albany in a game that they just had to find a program. Long Island now, again, I'm sure would like to have somebody else in that spot, but that's another home game. So if you have 8 home games this year, somehow you're going to probably have at least 6 or 7 the following year, depending on how your non-conference schedule works out. Ryan Pryor was saying that, in fact, on the chat room. Matt Wigtel, how is Oklahoma State not playing any Texas school?
They're playing Houston. So they are playing a Texas school. But, yeah, that's very interesting. They do have Oklahoma on there, so they didn't split up Bedlam. I didn't think that they would, but they don't play Texas. I wonder how Oklahoma State feels about that. I mean, Baylor doesn't play Oklahoma. So it's just kind of that's.
I don't like the fact that Baylor and Oklahoma State are not playing.
I don't like that either.
Yeah, I like again, I don't care if Oklahoma State was coming off a national championship. It's just kind of become such a nice little – kind of a back-and-forth rivalry with some of the moments we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, they're also playing they're playing all 4 of the new schools. Oklahoma State is. They're playing all 4 of the new schools. So just notice, I mean, that's what I'm saying is, like, you kind of notice something new every time you look at this. But, yeah, they're not playing Texas or Baylor or Texas Tech, but they're playing all 4 of the new schools. And as a matter of fact, Oklahoma State's final 5 weeks, they're playing 4 of the 5 weeks against the new schools. That's wild. So that's a very interesting.
The last 3 straight through.
Well, yeah, 4 of the last 5 and 3 the 3 straight to end the season. So yeah, they're going to be again this gray thing. So that means home versus Cincy, home for Bedlam, at UCF, at Houston, home for BYU. So, yeah, that's a very interesting last 5 weeks for Oklahoma State with their Bedlam rival, and then all 4 of the brand-new schools to the mix as part of that. But, yeah, no Baylor, no Texas Tech, no Texas. Oklahoma State fans, I'm curious to hear how they feel about this schedule. On the one hand, though, like, it could be super favorable for them. I mean, you think about it, Arizona State, that might actually be more dangerous with Kenny Dillingham, certainly more dangerous than when Herm Edwards was there. So maybe that's one you circle in the non-conference that you're like, okay, you could be 1-1 if you're not careful. But Iowa State on the road to open Big 12 play, so that, could be tough. But then, yeah, K-State at home, Kansas at home, West Virginia, Cincy, OU, UCF, Houston. I mean, if there is an adjustment period for the new schools, then that's maybe like the greatest schedule you could have to end the year, quite frankly. I mean, and you get, Texas Tech, they're expected to probably be 2 of the better teams in the conference. Baylor's not a cakewalk, no matter, what they did last year. That's still a physical, tough game, and they avoid all of that. So, I mean, hell, they don't even play TCU.
Who's that again?
Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
They don't play anybody in the state of Texas outside of Houston, and they close with 4 of the 5 new schools. So, I mean, that could actually be super favorable for them if there is a bit of a learning curve.
Well, depending on what UCF bring to the table, and by the way, Gus Malzahn will join us. Houston, a part of that. Cincinnati with the reload, new coaching staff. And then, obviously, Brigham Young with Kalani Sitake. They're trying to bounce back from kind of a disappointing year. By the way, from Mike Bartis, unless he's looking at this wrong, Texas only leaves the state twice their entire season. They have the game at Alabama.
He's right.
They leave the state of Texas twice. That sounds like one of those Florida school schedules.
No, that sounds like Ohio State's old schedule. Remember, Ohio State was the master of that, where they would, host a non-conference game, and then they would play Cincinnati, Toledo, and Youngstown State in their non-con or something like that. There's other schools in Ohio, and they wouldn't, travel outside the borders. But yeah, that does. I mean, that's Florida. That the Gators, they do that a lot.
Over an 8 to 10 week period of time, from the time they play at Alabama, which of course will be a classic type game, until they play on the road against Iowa State on the 18th of November. Everything in between is going to be a home game. Oklahoma, of course, a neutral site, but in the state of Texas in Dallas.
Their longest trip after that is 3 hours down 290.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
To Houston.
They don't leave Texas
other than
from week 2 to week 13.
Yeah. No, absolutely. With the bye week in between all of that.
What are y'all doing over there in the Big 12 offices? They're leaving.
Yeah, I think there were some Texas fans who were worried about having to play at UCF, at Cincinnati, and they've been in Provo, and then maybe Iowa State and Manhattan.
If I was a Texas fan, the doomsday scenario would have been you're going at West Virginia, then at Provo, and then at Orlando, all within like a month. So you're like ping, 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 ping all over the place. But, By the way, Oklahoma State, one thing, I don't know, Craig, you mentioned this, the last Bedlam in Stillwater.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, last Bedlam is Stillwater, but I mean this is all, you look at them one by one and you get a ton of different storylines from it. But yeah, they're going to have that last Bedlam game, so that's, I'm sure, something that they're celebrating there, and who the heck knows what either one of those teams will even look like at that point. But yeah, very interesting how they close with all those new schools.
TCU has the opening game against Deion Sanders and Colorado. They also then have, Northwestern Louisiana. They play Houston, which is the first conference game. Then they play SMU, which will be right there in Dallas-Fort Worth. Home against West Virginia. At Iowa State. Home against Brigham Young. And then they have 2 of the next 3 weeks they're on the road, including Kansas State in Manhattan. They have an off week. And then also Texas Tech in Lubbock. Then they close out at home against Texas, home against Baylor, and then on the road against Oklahoma. You guys have mentioned that last month or so, 5 games with them. But so there's the schedule for the team that won the Big 12 regular season title. And, of course, Kansas State, Chris Kleiman and company, who won the Big 12 championship game up in Arlington. Let's do this. Let's take a break. The text line is going great. The chat room is going great. Let me read a couple of those when we come back. We'll read Shooter TX. Schedule's looking really nice for Baylor. Oklahoma State, TCU, clear. There's a desire to see anyone other than Oklahoma and Texas in the conference title game again. Love it. That could be true, Shooter TX. But again, Texas with Alabama, that's not a conference game, and then not leaving the state until they play at Iowa State. And who knows with the Cyclones? Maybe by then everything's good. And again, we don't know from year to year. Some think that Oklahoma State, some say Texas, some say Baylor have the easiest schedules based on what we've seen. Alex Brown, did the Big 12 let Texas have that schedule in order to keep them in the conference for another year for increased revenue for a year? We don't think that's happening.
Their money anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're really wanting – I mean, they got to send them to Timbuktu or had every game in Austin. They're still getting their money. So, yeah, I mean, I'm puzzled as to why they allowed such a friendly schedule. I don't think it's like Texas negotiated or anything like that. But
the algorithms, baby.
Yeah, I mean, that algorithm spit out in their favor, and given the fact that they're expected to be pretty good, I mean, I think you're probably celebrating if you're a Longhorn fan. Now, I don't know about all the individual little trips and everything that you're planning on. I don't care about that, but like in terms of competitively, I think you feel pretty good about that schedule. And you add in, Alabama's in a bit of a reload mode. And, I mean, I know we've seen this every offseason basically for, like, every year that's existed, the hype machine. But I think you look at that schedule, and I think that things are going to crank up a little bit more.
Inside, someone from within Baylor sent me this text. Don't really have a strong feeling either way. Utah and Texas, even though they are home games, early in the schedule is tough because I think Utah is the most complete team we'll face, and Texas, of course, very talented. Also, very little separation in the league, so hard to prognosticate. If I'm being optimistic, I see 8 games we'll be favored in, so we'll win those, I hope. Split the remainder, and it's a special year, but who the hell knows in the Big 12?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Matthew Nichols, $2 super chat.
Thank you.
Do not love UT going to UH. UH will be overtaken. Well, maybe. I mean, that's true. I mean, all those tickets will be bought in the secondary market or the allotment. But if Houston, now knowing that Texas is coming on October 21st, wants to make sure that doesn't happen, don't let those tickets go in the secondary market as long as you possibly can.
By the way, just to get in a note, just a confirmation, Gus Malzahn, UCF football coach, will join us today at 2:30 Central Time. And right before that, Houston Athletic Director Chris Pezman will join us at around 2:15. So a couple of the new incoming schools with UCF and Houston will have representation with them and their thoughts at around that time between 2:15 and 2:45. All right, Garrett Ross, thank you for being here throughout the day. He and Grayson and Craig were at the Bearcast. Jack's been here throughout the day getting ready for this. The numbers on our chat room, the numbers on our YouTube channel, 365 Sports. We're closing in on 28,000 subscribers. We'd love for you to add to that if you haven't already, or tell somebody about it. And this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on for great customer service, for brand new vehicles, for new pre-owned, whatever it is that you're looking for, just regular service. They've got it for you. They are, again, the people that you can count on. And right now, they have a loaded lot, the most selection that they've had in, a really long time. Over 150 vehicles on the lot ready to drive home today. Truly a Texas-sized selection, and that includes dozens of Sierra trucks. Right now, qualified buyers can get 2.9% financing on new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks, or qualified buyers can get 3.9% financing on GMC Terrain SUVs or the entire lineup of Buick SUVs in stock as well. When it comes to the Sierra, it offers best-in-class towing, unsurpassed strength, premium comfort for a limited time. Get 2.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. And if you're not looking to buy new, Richard Carr also has 80 quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock, many under $20,000, affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Richard Carr has quality vehicles ready to drive today. And if you're just looking to drive your car a little longer, you're not even looking to buy new or buy pre-owned, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road. Just check out the website to see service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable service. So, for 23 years in Central Texas, check out the people who built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
The text number, your opinion on your favorite school. If you want, we'd love to have you fire that off. And, of course, the chat room as well. The text number is 254-339-1122. We came on today at a special time with the release of the Big 12 schedule. Brian Etheridge kind of, he said, hey, because we saw that start. We knew that was coming out yesterday or even the night before that. But we're here also because of you. Because of you, we have grown as much as we have because of all the changes in college football in the Big 12 Conference and elsewhere. From UCF Realist, unless we completely retool our roster, I only seen us win 3 conference games. From Tim Finch, none of the Texas schools are playing Oklahoma State, which we've brought that up. They do play Houston, is that right?
Yeah.
As far as the old Big 12, even the original Big 12, Robert Nichols, I didn't expect schedules to look like this. Not sure, Robert, please explain. And then Alex Brown, does K-State have, in your opinion, the toughest schedule? So we can break down Kansas State at some point, too.
I think, and I'm going to have to keep looking at it because we've been kind of on the, rolling through. I think that the toughest schedule in the Big 12 for the newbies is BYU and maybe even BYU overall. But West Virginia's schedule, I just told you this during the break. The coach on the hottest seat in the Big 12, and it's not even close, is Neil Brown. I mean, he's the one that got a new athletic director. He was on the hot seat anyway. West Virginia did not have a good season last year. There's all these moving parts there. Their schedule before the bye is, I think that's Duquesne, and correct me if I'm wrong, West Virginia fans, but Penn State, Duquesne, Pitt, Tech, and TCU. And TCU's on the road, as is Penn State. So the two best teams on that, based on
let me tell you,
just
an on-conference schedule along with Penn State and Pitt, that's a tough little start.
West Virginia's not making a bowl game unless something changes.
Yeah. So, and that doesn't mention that you go to Houston after the bye. You've got to go to UCF too. So it's not easy.
And I'm glad that those two are playing because, again, right down there on the East Coast. Somebody just brought this up we mentioned Texas, and they have the game in Alabama, and then in late October, the game in Ames. Houston, I want you guys to hear as I read these off. Where are these games? UTSA, home. Rice, on the road, in the same city. TCU at home. Sam Houston State at home. At Lubbock. Home against West Virginia. Home against Texas. And then at Kansas State, they don't leave the state of Texas until also October 28th.
Although, to be fair, Houston to Lubbock is
that's 12-hour flight.
Well, Houston to Lubbock is as long of a flight as it would be probably almost Houston to Orlando, which they also do at the end of the year. So while they don't leave the state of Texas, that's a little bit of a different thing, especially for Houston and Texas Tech, will be the furthest apart in the state, almost border to border there. So that one, they don't leave the state of Texas, but they go to a completely different part of it. I mean, the topography changes like 6 times before you even get there.
So does the time zone.
Yeah.
So does the time zone. Let's see. Ryan Nelson, UT would have gone to Morgantown this year. Glad to avoid that trip because if it would stayed the flip of last year's schedule to this year. Casey Latham, does the championship game criteria change this year? Is it still the top 2 in the conference with records?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yes. Sark better get it done with this schedule or he's toast.
It really should. I mean, I don't know about toast, but he really should. I mean, it's an easy schedule for Texas. I mean, on paper, it really is. Again, you don't leave Texas from week 2 to week 13. You don't leave Texas from September 9th to November 18th. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy to not leave in that amount of time. So 2+ months, they will just stay within the confines of, it's a large state, second largest behind Alaska, but still, that's pretty comfortable. So, I'm not a believer in any conspiracy theories. All that, the Big 12 is going to punish us and all that jazz that was being talked. That turned out to be totally false, like so many other things. But I'm with you. Sark, with what he's got coming back, I said that before the schedule was dropped. But now seeing the schedule, an Alabama game, and then beyond that, I mean, it's a crapshoot, but they should have a very good year next year, and no excuses outside of obviously injuries, which nobody can control. But on paper, that's setting up to be a big 2023 for them.
They are playing some teams who last year, obviously with what Kansas State did and what TCU did, and at the end TCU did, and then Tech at the end. But the Alabama game, you win that game, and you set yourself up to be a part of it. You even lose that game early, but it's a tight game. You have at least the people on your schedule that allow you to get yourself right back up into it. And it depends on where Alabama's going to be ranked anyway at the start of the year, whether it's 1, 3, 4. It won't be much lower than that. So, TCU, the defending champion. The Deion Sanders game, right off the top. Colorado has TCU, and I think in either week 2 or 3 they play Matt Rule in Nebraska. and I'm not comparing Nebraska to TCU, but Colorado and TCU right off the top, we knew that. Remember, Colorado was trying to change that to slip a game with Arizona State in front of that one, and then Kirk Herbstreit leaked out the information because Deion told him, and so that game was not nuked, but it was not moved up, which Colorado would like to have probably had that. Not that Arizona State's a gimme, but that kind of changed what Colorado was going to have early on in the season. So if you are a fan of any of these teams, the chat room again, the text line's going on. By the way, we will get into UT men's basketball getting to 7-2, Baylor dropping to 5-4 in Austin. Texas's bench was electric at 30-6 advantage in bench scoring. They had as many threes. We'll have Terrence Oglesby on today at 3:30 to discuss men's basketball tonight. Hell of a game between Kansas at home against K-State.
Well, like Cuz's Corner says, he really likes the way West Virginia's schedule is lining up. No Texas, no K-State, no Iowa State, who they usually struggle with the new Kansas. But I wholeheartedly disagree. Now, look, I'm not a West Virginia fan like he is, but I think just that the first few weeks, and maybe he likes it because he wants Neil Brown to go. I didn't get that from being on a show, but like to me, if there was a conspiracy to get Neil Brown gone, those first games before the bye would be it. I mean, Penn State and TCU on the road in that alone is uncomfortable for me. I would say that if I was Clemson, I wouldn't want to play those teams in the first 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, that's tough.
I mean, there's a real shot that they're like 1-4 the first 5 weeks. I don't know how good Pitt's going to be, but I would not take them against TCU right now. I would not take them against Texas Tech right now. I would not take them at Penn State right now. Duquesne you should beat, but, outside of Pittsburgh and Duquesne, those other three, at least in that first, block is going to be pretty tough. I do think the saving grace is you do play – at Houston, at Central Florida, BYU at home, Cincinnati. You've got all 4 of the new schools. And if there is, again, growing pains, and they don't just come sliding right in like they've, basically, just going from American ball to Big 12 ball is no leap at all, then, maybe this is more favorable. You're playing 4 new schools who aren't quite, all the way geared up for Big 12 play, and it's all in the end of the year. It's all the second half of the season, basically. I mean, Houston's right there at the midway point, but Central Florida's in late October, BYU's November, Cincinnati's mid-November, and you got road trips to Oklahoma and Baylor. You certainly, I wouldn't think would probably be favored in those, but that might work out well for you. I mean, if you're trying to put a positive spin on it, that you're playing all 4 of the new schools may work in your favor as opposed to having to play, whoever it is that's missing off the schedule at first glance. I guess K-State you're not having to play. You're not having to play Kansas. You're not having to play, let's see here. I can't tell who else off the top of my head. Iowa State. That might work in their favor, but it also could be taken as pretty tough as well. All in the eye of the beholder.
I mentioned TCU won the regular season champion, and everyone's losing their freaking minds over the fact there is no regular season champion in college football. I still think there's no banner. There are no, again, I get what you're saying, so I'm sorry that I offended some of you because I mentioned that TCU was the regular season champion. Kansas State is the defending Big 12 champion. I thought maybe I was at least trying to clarify that by saying what they did in the regular season. That's okay. That's from Alex, and that's from everyone else. But I did say that, and you're right. All right, now, there are a couple of you, like Dylan Gabriel. Where did he play before Oklahoma?
UCF.
Mm-hmm. That will be an interesting game, won't it? That game against UCF will be a home game for OU and Norman. But that's kind of Oklahoma should be favored. We don't know who they are. They'll have already played Texas. They will have already had a couple of other games under their belt. But then after the game with Texas, they get to host UCF, and it'd be an interesting moment for UCF and Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, that one is interesting. There's another one. I'm sure there might be a couple others of these, but at least high profile. Sam Hart, like this is outside the Big 12, obviously. But yesterday, Notre Dame plays Wake Forest, so you've got Sam Hartman against his whole team, Dylan Gabriel against his whole team. So if you're a fan of quarterbacks and their matchups, those are a couple interesting ones throughout the season to look forward to. And UCF at Oklahoma, to me, will be interesting because of that's going to be a pretty wide open offensive game between Gus Malzahn and Jeff Lebby, who used to be there. That's the other thing is Jeff Lebby against Oklahoma or against UCF, provided he doesn't get another job between now and then, like Alabama or something.
CJ Scott, I'm disappointed. I was hoping that Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, and Houston were not going to play each other, so all of them could go unbeaten. A guy can hope, can he? So, TJ, thank you for that comment as well. Ryan Nelson, UCF going to Boise in a non-conference game. Good to see that. One of the things that, and Oklahoma has always, in my opinion, played what is a very, very good schedule as far as non-conference schedule. They've been on the road. They've played pretty much everybody home and away. But this year, I think, is at Arkansas State, SMU, and Tulsa. Is there 3 non-conference games to help them get started, and so that will be an interesting start for them. There is no other Power 5 type school on their schedule early on, which they usually do, whether it's been Ohio State or it's been Florida State or if it's been Tennessee or whoever in the past. But that's an interesting start.
I mean, they should probably be 5-0 heading into the Texas game. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got home against Arkansas State should be a win. SMU at home should be a win, although that could get, maybe interesting with SMU's offense, although they're replacing Tanner Mordecai. So I don't know what that looks like Preston Stone-wise, if he's going to be, just geared up and throwing it all over the place. But you'd think that, Oklahoma at home beats SMU. Tulsa, I mean, come on. Then road trip to Cincinnati. Now that could get squirrely, potentially. But coming off the year Cincinnati had and losing Luke Fickell, I mean, I'm not exactly looking at that the same way. I'll just be honest. Right now I would take Oklahoma, but first time going to Cincy in this new era. I mean, maybe that gets weird. And then Iowa State at home. Iowa State can't really afford to be any worse than they were. They should be better. But in Norman, yes, they give Oklahoma fits. That could they could potentially go sideways. But if you're just looking at Oklahoma and you are looking at the logo, they should be 5-0 heading into the Texas game. Not a guarantee by any means, but it does set up that way.
By the way, remember there was a couple of things you hear that a school or two was trying to maybe put their foot down, that they didn't want to have to play any of the incoming 4 in a road game. Texas is not playing any of them other than Houston. It's not UCF, it's not Cincinnati, and it's not Brigham Young on the road, although they're playing some, of course, of those incoming schools. There was another note that who's Oklahoma's biggest nemesis outside? And, of course, they've run the table most of the time. This year got obliterated or last season by Oklahoma. Who has been the one that's just kind of gotten under their skin? Who's bothered them the most out in the Big 12? Kansas State, not on their schedule this year.
Yeah.
That was a bad matchup for that team last year. Over the years, but it's especially this last year. Kansas State was just a bad matchup for OU. And
they got a pretty easy schedule now that you look at it. They really do. They look like they have a pretty easy schedule.
It will all depend on who's better this year than they were last year. They do have the game at home against TCU, and by then maybe TCU, of course, has a lot to replace from the team that went to the college football championship game.
Cincinnati on the road, like I said, with Oklahoma being 5-0 heading into Texas. I mean, on paper, I would pick Oklahoma. So then Iowa State, I mean, on paper, I'd pick Oklahoma, and then you got Texas, and Texas will be interesting. And then you have a bye. So they could very well be 5-1 or 6-0 heading into the bye week if they just handle their business as favorites. And then UCF, I would imagine they'll probably be favored. That's a home game. Kansas on the road. I mean, Kansas is not same old Kansas, so there is that. But still, I mean, I would think Oklahoma beats Kansas. Bedlam, I mean, who the heck knows? I mean, obviously that's back-to-back road games, but West Virginia at home, I think that plays into their favor. Brigham Young on the road. I mean, I'm not really fearing Brigham Young this year, but it's Provo, and we saw last year with Baylor. I mean, if it's on a Saturday night, then maybe that gets really wild and crazy.
That could be a weather game, too.
Late in the year, so, I mean, maybe that is a lot more challenging. And then, yeah, TCU to close it out. But, I mean, as far as, like, favorites, they'll probably be favored in, assuming a step up, they'll be favored in basically every game you would think except for Texas and TCU and possibly one other like an Oklahoma State in that Bedlam game, but that's the start of November. So, yeah, I mean, if you're just going to favorites go, then that could work well for OU.
Yeah, they should be favored in 9 or 10.
Yeah,
those games.
Yeah,
9 or,
absolutely.
if not 11, we don't know what's going to happen by the time they get to Texas. They could be favored in that one. I would think Texas probably, based on the way we've talked about their schedule, no matter what happens with Alabama, they're going to be favored in that game. But again, we didn't even know. Like, they have 9 or 10 minimum games that they'll be favored in on that schedule. Much like their Texas schedules kind of line up easily that way. Texas,
maybe they've both already written the big fat check, and this is part of. Yeah,
they certainly want any payback in this schedule. That's for sure.
I mean, Texas will be favored in 11 of the games, or 10 or 11, because they're not going to be favored in the Alabama game on any planet in any multiverse right now. Even though everybody thinks that both those teams are going to be really good, but Oklahoma's the only other game that they would not be favored in on the rest of their schedule.
Ryan McCulloch, I think it is. He's an Oklahoma fan, logo next to his name. We were supposed to play Georgia this year.
Yeah.
And the SEC canceled it. So that was another one that, boy, would that have been interesting. And I think would have been great. Oklahoma, Georgia, Alabama, Texas early on, a fantastic way to kind of get a measuring stick for who they are. Biscuits and gravy, 4 straight home games. Brian and Blake get the smoke going as far as Blake Blackmar and Brian Etheridge and Sikkim 365, the tailgate. TJ, hey, Paxton, how many weeks in will Ewers go before he is not the starter? In Paxton, those teams won't score on Oklahoma, who we were bringing up as well. And so TJ not sold on Ewers being the guy down the road based on, I guess, productivity. I don't know about that.
I disagree.
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine, and he could very well be playing. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not trying to pump Texas up too much, but there are some interesting storylines. I mean, there's this schedule now that plays into it where, again, you're probably favored in 11, if not all 12 of your games. At the minimum 10, but probably more like 11 or 12 games you'll be favored in. And for Ewers, I mean, I think him and Sark both. This last year was a step up, and there was some progress made. But I do feel like, there is some looking at Sarkisian like, okay, where do you take this now? Had a nice year. It's fine. You broke in your new quarterback. You lost your bowl game, so it didn't end on the highest of notes. But it was a good year overall. It was growth. But they definitely need to see some more growth this year. So how much do they see? And the same applies to Quinn Ewers. He was good last year. Sometimes he was fine. Sometimes he looked great. Sometimes he looked like a young player who hadn't played a lot, and now he's got a bunch of games under his belt and
an offseason.
And quite frankly, he'll be NFL eligible. So, if he's that golden arm, like a lot of people have thought, I mean, let's not forget how many people were like, he'll play 2 years, he'll be gone, he'll leave, and okay, well, this is year number 2 then, and technically year 3, so he could leave. So, there's thoughts like that as far as Texas goes this year, and just storylines of, some expectations.
I'll give you just some points of comparison of, okay, how many people outside of the true recruitniks in the world knew about Anthony Richardson at Florida?
Not many.
Okay, Anthony Richardson's out in the NFL draft this year, and everybody who knew anything about college football knew about Quinn Ewers. Everybody knew about Quinn Ewers, so he's already well thought of. He's also, while I would say that if it was this year was that year he was draft eligible, I would definitely tell him, hey, you got to stay put for a year. But if he improves, which I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, 1. And 2, he did nothing last year to make me think he's not a guy who can win games in the Big 12 consistently. He didn't do anything. Now, Was Texas in a position where Quinn Ewers could win the game for him by himself last year? No, but that's not completely on Quinn Ewers now, is it? So while I'm not trying to, anoint him a Heisman Trophy winner or anything like that, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be better.
When he was in the list for Heisman trophies last year early on, that was silly.
Yeah,
that was silly.
But my point being is, if the quarterback coming behind him was named Arch Johnson and not Arch Manning, nobody would really be talking about that.
Alex Brown, let's be honest, guys. For a team, we're going to break here and then come back again. We'll have Chris Pezman, AD at Houston, and also Gus Malzahn, the head coach at UCF at the 2 o'clock hour. Let's be honest, for a team to go unbeaten in this specific Big 12 conference, you need either an OU or Texas schedule or TCU luck, where you injure every starting quarterback. I shouldn't even have read that because now here comes. But Alex, stop. TCU had a hell of a run, no question. Absolutely a hell of a run.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand what he's saying, and there's points to be made both ways. They were very fortunate. You could look back at how much of a tightrope they walked. They could have lost 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what they did. It won't be, easy to replicate that, even if they feel now like, okay, we've been there, and now we'll get the recruits from that run, and that's very true. And, you think that you're just in that stratosphere now, but, it's one thing getting there. It's another thing staying there, and they are losing Max Duggan, and how many times did he bail them out last year? Quite a bit. Quentin Johnston, how many times did he help out matters last year? Quite a bit. Both of their running backs, they're losing a bunch of their offensive linemen. They're losing a lot. I know that they've got what's his face from Temple, the tight end, coming back.
Jared Wiley.
Yeah, Jared Wiley's coming back, so that's good. I know that TCU won't be lacking in skill talent, but my gosh, you lose some really good players, and you did win a bunch of tight games with banged up quarterbacks playing last year. So yeah, I understand the sentiment for sure.
Well, I'd rather do that than have what some schools had, where they couldn't win the close games this year and ended up not going to a bowl game.
And we saw Baylor 2 years ago do that, and then they turned around and did what last year?
Lost the close game.
Yeah, and it was a much different feeling. So that's what I'm saying. I can understand where you're coming from. Is TCU had the lucky side of the coin for the most part, obviously not at the very end. They could have had a bag of coins and it wouldn't have mattered. They could have had a bag of coins to bang Georgia over the head with, it wouldn't have mattered. But there's reason to believe that that's not going to be replicated, but who knows? Maybe Sonny Dykes surprises people once again and they just reload and move on about their business. That'll be the fun part is getting to see.
All right, when we come back, more to come. We're going to be on until 4 o'clock Central today. Again, we started at 1 when the football schedule was released in the Big 12. We've kind of dissected some of the schedules. Any questions or your comments and opinions on either your favorite team and what you see from them, or maybe the most interesting nuggets along the way? We are until 4 Central Time, 365 Sports.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
You know what happened today? The Big 12 football schedule, thank God, was released. So a lot of you can now make your plans for possibly travel, whether it's to Orlando or Provo or wherever else, and so that's good. And then on top of that, you can dissect it and look at it the home and away. We can discuss it. Remember, it was originally going to be out in sometime, October? Am I right? And then it was November. And then basically December didn't happen. And then, of course, and Mack Rhodes kept saying this, it will be out at some time by the end of January. Well, my God, there's no more days left in the month. This is it. And then you saw the little sneak peek that they were going to release the schedule today at 1 o'clock Central. I'm just glad it's out and everyone can just now look at it, do with it what you want, and it won't be, hey, when's the schedule coming up?
Yeah, a couple of different people asked me why we would go on early just because the schedule's out. And I said, most years we wouldn't. It doesn't, register, but this is the first year of the new Big 12. It's more than likely the last year of Oklahoma and Texas, which was the last of the old guard. And third, considering that they've given us 11 different dates of the schedule coming out before it actually has, there is anticipation for just saying what days things are on more than there ever will be in the Big 12. Absolutely. So this one, for what is generally mundane information in every other college football year, is actually exciting and different.
Yeah. There's no reason to go on earlier had it just it could, 3 years from now. It may not be that, but because of the uniqueness, Craig, of Texas and Oklahoma, most likely, as you mentioned, Paul, a one-off with this schedule, and then they start all over again in 2024.
Yeah, I don't really think we need to explain, but it's just, that's what y'all said. It's new schedule, it's the new conference, so that's why we did it. Simple as that, really.
Well, a couple of notes that are in the premium section of SicEm365.com. I like the way people look at schedules, and everyone has their own. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. We look at Baylor's schedule with 8 home games. Yes, the road games and who they have to play, etc. But one of the comments was, no Oklahoma State on their biggest down year ridiculous. Well, we don't know that. We really don't know. Gundy's been doing this for a long, long time, and yes, it has seemed to be a very raucous, so to speak, or turmoil of an offseason or even at the end of the season. You don't know, though. You don't really know that. But, again, no Oklahoma teams. That is intriguing. Not even Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. And the Oklahoma State game because of the history between Baylor and Oklahoma State.
Hell, you'd probably be happy. They don't hardly beat Oklahoma State. I mean, like that's a team that whooped them last year. Their big down year. Granted, it was before the slide, and Spencer Sanders was still healthy, but I don't know about like ridiculous. I don't think it's ridiculous. I mean, something had to give. There's some teams you weren't going to play, and it's not going to work in everybody's favor. And so I don't know. I'd actually look at that as like maybe a gift, instead of a big, negative.
Well, Craig, overall record-wise, Baylor versus the state of Oklahoma in their history isn't great.
No,
exactly.
Until recently.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you still, like, that stuff still kind of, weighs on you as a program sometimes because, you hear those things and, Baylor's only beaten Oklahoma. I mean, it's less than double-digit times still, right?
It's on one hand. It's three times.
Yeah, not even.
Twice in Norman, right?
And
then they beat them
last 2 years.
Twice in Norman and twice at home. RG3's throw to Terrence Williams, and then the game back when they beat up on Caleb Williams and company.
Oklahoma State's slightly better if you're Baylor. Like, they've got a slightly better record against them, but also, like, the teams that you're getting the Big 12 draw against outside of Texas, who that's out of whack, and Baylor would have to play them 40 years in a row and go 30-10, I think, to catch up, honestly. Well, maybe even better than that. But Tech, you've been, that series is almost exactly even. Iowa State's been very favorable for you. Kansas State's been pretty favorable for you. TCU not. West Virginia is pretty much split home and away how that one goes. So I think the schedule, at least on historical paper and everything like that, it works out with 8 home games and not playing the teams from Oklahoma and not playing a resurgent Kansas team who you did beat last year, but not having to go play them a year better at their place, which you would have had to do had the schedule stayed the same. I think those things all work out in Baylor's favor.
I think if you're being honest with yourself and you feel like who do you have a better chance of beating at UCF or at Cincinnati versus at Oklahoma State or at Oklahoma, I think you're taking the new schools. I know I am. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a trade-off that you would take, and Oklahoma State's beaten you 3 out of the last 4 years. I don't know, that doesn't necessarily mean everything, and Baylor, if you stretch it out, it's like 4-3 over the last 7 or what have you, but they have beaten you 3 out of the last 4, so I don't know. I don't look at that as a real negative, like I said. I think that's a game that I'm certain that certain families would love to still be on the schedule because relatives went there or whatever kind of crossover there might be. But in terms of the best schedule to win as many games as possible, yeah, I'll take the Oklahoma schools not being on the schedule this year. That works out okay for me.
All right, there's a good chance Kalani Sitake is going to join us in the 3 o'clock hour. Brigham Young head coach on their schedule. From Shooter TX, did Baylor announce their homecoming game yet? I haven't even asked. I get why you would know and want to know. I get that. From Stan, Baylor's schedule looks really rough to me. I like Oklahoma State's schedule. Scotty B wanted to rank the hardest schedules 1 through 14. I'm not ready to do that, and I probably won't. But we just got it like an hour ago, so I get it, though, Scotty. Love your passion.
Yeah.
From IMS, I'm a Michigan State fan, but really excited to watch the new Big 12. Matt Forestieri, the Cougs are ready. I love how this is part of how we grew. When the Texas-Oklahoma story in the SEC popped in July of 2021, a lot of you may never have ever found us, and a lot of what we discuss involved whether Cincinnati or UCF or Houston or Brigham Young or whoever else along the way in the fall of 2021, and we're glad that you are, in fact, with us now as well. Katie, anyone that gets butthurt on y'all coming on early can buzz off. The rerun follows.
Yeah. Well, you just hit it when, you see it.
There's a Texas Tech helmet signed by Joey McGuire in the background because Katie Rader basically just all but challenged Joey to sign it and send it to us.
Speaking of Texas Tech, by the way, we mentioned that Dylan Gabriel will host his old team.
Yeah.
So will Tyler Shuck, Oregon, coming to Lubbock in week 2.
That's a great I love that non-conference game. I love those. I love them a lot. When people play, good teams play each other in non-conference games. Let's see. Someone mentioned that West Virginia gets all 4 of the new schools, but not Iowa State, not Kansas State, and not Texas.
Yep, they do. And they get them pretty much all to get, they get UCF and BYU back-to-back, but around the Oklahoma schools, it's Houston, Oklahoma State, UCF, BYU, Oklahoma, Cincinnati.
There it is on the screen.
Yeah.
By the way, Dana Holgerson and Houston against West Virginia will be an interesting little kind of a look at that as well. And by the way, I'm looking out the window. Garrett, look out the curtains. Is it snowing? Yes. It is.
Lovely. It's snowing.
It's snowing. Of course, it's been cold throughout, not just here, but in many, many places. It's pretty cool. I just saw the flakes coming down from the sky. It's good to see that as well. Let's see here. Ramiro, Baylor also beat Oklahoma in 14, remember, with Bryce Petty in the first blackout game. So that is another. The wins against OU have all come since the RG3 Heisman Trophy season in 2011, and a lot of their Oklahoma State wins have come since that same time period, the last decade or 10 or 12 years. All right? Anything else you guys want to discuss? We have Chris Pezman coming up at 2:15.
I mean, yeah, that's, I think, one of the 4 that we mentioned. Might have missed out on mentioning that specifically, but they don't beat them often. They've beaten them the last 2 years and then had that game, as you mentioned, in the Terrence Williams, RG3 game. And that's the history of wins against Oklahoma. So, yeah, I mean, I think that you'd probably feel fine taking them on next year. I don't think Baylor's, backing down from playing anybody. But if you had your choice, yeah, give me UCF versus give me Oklahoma if I'm trying to win the most games absolutely possible. Yeah. Because one school has been recruiting way better than you for entire history. And, I don't know exactly what to expect with Oklahoma next year, but I would assume that they'll be improved from what we saw. And by the end of the year, they were playing at least with a bit of confidence. They've completely reworked that roster. It always did, have a little extra edge to it, like probably anybody who plays Oklahoma when you have that on the schedule. So that's unfortunate. It might not be as buzzworthy of a schedule, but if you're looking at the best path to trying to win 10, 11, 12 games, hard to argue with the path that they've got in front of them. I mean, 8 home games, no Oklahoma, no Oklahoma State, 2 teams that have typically given you trouble. I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, if I'm trying to get the easiest path, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. By the way, Baylor, according to Wikipedia, 5-28 against Oklahoma, which is a winning percentage of the fifth one. So they have 2011, 2013, 2014, 2021, and 2022. 5 of the last 11, though. That's pretty much almost 50% for a school you had never beaten before until 2011. 38-35 last season. Chris Pezman around the corner.
Yeah, Black Friday, TCU, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech at Texas. So Oklahoma and Texas both hosting Black Friday games. And, yeah, I mean, I would assume with those opponents, TCU, OU ought to be a pretty spicy game, and Tech and Texas. That was a big win for Joey McGuire last year. It's a very fortunate win for them. That could have, Bijan doesn't fumble in overtime to start things off. How does that game go? We don't know. But that was a wild game and a wild win in Lubbock. And I know Texas Tech's geared up to try and top that this year, what they were able to accomplish in year 1 with McGuire. And obviously we've already said Texas should be pretty good. So that'll be a big Black Friday block for the Big 12.
No Thursday games for Baylor. They've had a handful of those along the way, and not many. A couple of them have been great. Of course, they played in West Virginia on a Thursday night earlier this year, or on 2022, and it was just a nightmare the way that game ended. When we come back, Houston, UCF, Brigham Young, and Cincinnati, they finally know their first year schedule into the Big 12. What does Houston Athletic Director Chris Pezman have to say? and this is 365 Sports. If you are looking for a dentist and you need one you can trust, and you have been maybe even like me at times, you've just not paid much attention or cared the maintenance of your dental work, and it's come back to haunt you a little bit. It has for me, but I feel so much better about where I am, thanks to when I finally walked through the front door at Stonewood Dental and Dr. Steve Childress. And ever since that time, the teeth cleaning every 6 months. Something's going on. Don't wait until it's to a point where you have to like, oh my God, this is awful. Make sure you get the maintenance and at least look at what it might be. Front tooth, back tooth, molar, upper, whatever it might be. Dr. Steve Childress has taught me that, yes, he understands. You start to have dental work that doesn't feel right, but then you're scared to go to the dentist. There's no reason to be. What he has done with my mouth when it comes to whatever he's had to do, from root canals to whatever, extracting teeth, it's been amazing. He's the best. Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Kick off the new year at the Start Something New sales event. Get up to $2,500 in total values and 1.9% for 72 months on all new 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limiteds at Allen Samuels in Waco.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next.
In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Over the next hour, we will hear from 3 of the new 4 incoming schools into the Big 12. We're about to talk with Chris Pezman, AD at Houston, Kalani Sitake at Brigham Young in an hour, and then Gus Malzahn at UCF will join us at the bottom of the hour. Proud to have Chris Pezman at the University of Houston with us on 365 Sports. And Chris, thanks for your time. Did you ever think this schedule would ever be released in the first place?
I knew it was coming eventually, but, it's pretty cool to be able to sit in this role and have the opportunity to be here while this happens. I can't tell you how the feedback we've gotten from our fans now that this is out and official, and how excited everybody is. The opportunity to be in state with the rivalries we have, some we haven't had a chance to play in a long time, and be able to jump in your car and drive 90 minutes to go play a game and see your team play is everything we've been wanting for decades, and it couldn't be more excited that we finally made it to this day.
Well, whatever happens with Texas and Oklahoma, if this is in fact the last year, you guys do get the Longhorns at home on October 21st. How important was it for Houston individually to make that particular game that way happen?
Yeah, it's, it kind of just broke our way. It wasn't any magic to it from our end, but, the opportunity to get Texas here on campus at TDECU, was as important as anything, that opportunity for us with this schedule coming out. And, we've been asked quite a bit, because we've moved games in the past to the NFL stadium, but, that's something with now that we're moving into Big 12 isn't anything that we'll necessarily consider in the future. And, playing that game on campus is for all the right reasons. And it's why we built a stadium on campus, over 10 years ago. And this is why we do those things, so we get a chance to have teams like Texas come in here and Baylor and Tech. And I'm rambling a little bit. I apologize, but this is a pretty special day for us as a university and for me personally, just because I was here when things fell apart with the Southwest Conference. I was interning for the AD at that time, so I got to feel it firsthand. And now I'll be on the other side of it. It's pretty darn exciting.
Chris, what was the first thing that you looked for? What do you typically look for when a new schedule drops?
Yeah, for me, it's you're trying, and I'm going to be kind of silly about it, but getting a little bit more inside baseball, I guess. So I'm looking for competitive balance. I'm trying to make sure that, we get the same number of days off as the opponents, things like that, and use the Texas game as an example. They play OU and then get a bye, and then we play them. They get an extra few days, but we're playing West Virginia on a Thursday, so we gain some of those days back before we play Texas. There are certain oddities that come out during the schedule, and you're just trying to work through those to make sure you're putting your team in the best position competitively that you can. But obviously for us, you pivot then to the opponents, getting a chance to get those teams in your Oklahoma State, and some of our American rivals with Cincinnati here, and then, getting a chance to get Oklahoma State here and go to K-State for the first time in my career. Things like that are what, you kind of look to, because there's some uniqueness to it that we haven't had a chance to do in a long time.
Chris, was there any infighting, and I don't mean that so much in a negative way, but was there a lot of possible hey, we're just not we don't want to play here? Or was there any of that as this thing tries to just mesh together for 1 year?
If there was, it wasn't anything I saw or heard. It's kind of funny, again, a little behind the scenes. So when they normally give the schedules, we'll get a call from Scott Draper, who's head of football operations for the Big 12, and he'll give it to you verbally, but you only get your schedule. And so you don't necessarily get to see you don't get to see or hear everybody else's schedule. So it certainly minimizes the amount of, well, so-and-so gets to do this and we want the same opportunity. That doesn't happen. You get your schedule, you work through any uniqueness that schedule has in that year. And really what you're looking for is, let's say it's the same day as like a graduation on campus, or there's some citywide event that may impact you that you just have to be conscious of. But, what's fun about this as we make this transition is we were on receive mode for a long time. And now as we transition to Big 12, particularly in the city of Houston, now we get to start carving out our own niche even more so and start demanding the attention that the program deserves and needs as we make this transition to Big 12 with obviously the caliber of opponents that will be coming here.
So is this year's schedule a total one-off given the fact that Texas and OU could be gone next year? It seems like the momentum is there for that. And even if they're not, it wouldn't necessarily be return trips and all that. You'd maybe have to mix it up again. So this schedule is not going to get like the back end of return trips, and then no matter what happens by 2025, you have to restart this. Is that how that's going to work?
Yeah, it's a true one-off. It's going to be managed year to year, and it doesn't necessarily assume that if we go to Baylor that they're coming back next year. We're taking strictly as 23 schedule, and we'll address 24 once we get a little bit further along.
So. What has, I guess, the feedback been? Or, I mean, have you talked to Coach Holgerson already about this? I mean, who have you been able to talk to? I know it's only been out now for about, an hour or so at this point, but I can sense the excitement. So what's that kind of been like since this has dropped?
Oh, yeah. I mean, sure, football coaches go straight to, we're playing 10 bowl teams from 22, and what the hell have you done to me? So, yeah, I've gotten that feedback. But, and then Dana, we've been advocates, and we've been able to do it here at Houston because we've just had a little bit more flexibility of, early season games. Do you get those off of Saturdays and move them to a Thursday? And it gives you the benefit of added visibility. But now, as we mature as a program and as a department, we have to be a little bit more thoughtful about those opportunities of whether we do them or not. And so, Dana was like, hey, let's take UTSA and move it to a Thursday. I mean, and this was just anecdotally having that conversation. But now, for us, with the strength of the schedule we have, keeping it on Saturdays when people could travel, the traditional aspects that, and frankly, we've had to be a little untraditional, we're able to get more into the regular rhythm of what you expect a fall to be with your football program.
Chris, I know that you know Mac Rhodes incredibly well, and of course his time there at Houston. You guys were supposed to play in Waco, what was it, 2-3 years ago in that COVID year, and that was kind of a strange occurrence. Do you and Mac yet have any kind of bet, so to speak, on what you're going to do?
No bet yet, but I'm sure that'll come, and I'll have some fun with Mac. He's a pretty snazzy dresser. I'll have to come with something that's a little bit more tone deaf for him, as we get into it. But, the league in general, I was here with Mac for 2 years. I was the football ops guy. He's been incredibly helpful as we've made this transition, has been a great, person that I'm able to lean on and get some insights. Jeremiah at TCU has been great. Really, the league as a whole has been really ingratiating to us as we make this transition. And, we go to meetings. We're not official members yet until July 1st, but everybody's been very receptive to us being in the room. And as we make this transition, it's exciting. And also, at the same time, Brett's coming on as the commissioner. And I got to give Brett a lot of credit. He has done an incredible job in a very short period of time, particularly for somebody that has been in sports and entertainment, but is coming from outside of college athletics. And, his attitude and frankly, his aggressiveness has served us as a league very well in a very short period of time. And there's a lot of things he's got on the table and that will come out in the future that he's working on. And everybody will understand what we see and how excited we are for him to lead us during this transition.
Chris, you mentioned what today means because it's official. You now have a schedule and obviously what it meant back in the fall of 21 when it became official. Your gut feeling, Paul mentioned the one-off, you mentioned the one-off. Do you feel like perhaps starting in 2024, the 12 teams, the incoming 4 and the 8 remaining teams will have their own conference?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. I feel, I think and when you say on conference, let me clarify that. You're just talking about us operating without the two that may leave kind of deal.
Yes.
Yeah. There's been some conversations recently that I'm not privy to, and so I'm just going to probably duck that question for right now. And I apologize. I tend to be pretty open about those things. I don't know enough about it, and I know there's some recent conversations that I haven't heard yet. So I frankly just don't know.
No, that's good. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it's obviously
okay.
there. But let's celebrate 23. The schedule's out. It's great to have you on the show. We really appreciate you. Welcome to the Big 12 officially, and have a great day.
Well, guys, I'm going to tell you, for me, I grew up in Texas and I played here, and, getting in it, I got, my assistant came in and said, hey, these guys want to talk to you from 365. I was like, hell yeah, let's go. I mean, that to me is the fun stuff. And so it was a bit of a bucket list item moment for me to be able to be on with you guys today. So thank you very much. And I look forward to doing this again, and feel free to call on us, and we couldn't be more excited.
Well, we will, and as I tell everyone else who's joined the conference, block our number because we'll be bothering the hell out of you. Hey, Chris, I can hear and feel the excitement in you and the University of Houston, of course, the Cougars fan base, and everyone else around the campus and history. Thanks for your time. Look forward to more.
All right, fellas. Look forward to it as well, and have a great day. And you got some good guests coming on, and enjoy it. Take
yes,
care.
Sir. Chris Pezman, Houston Vice President of Athletics. And, again, you could hear that in his voice. I'm excited today because we're about to hear from Gus Malzahn, one of the 4 incoming schools. We're going to have Kalani Sitake. We've had him on many times with the 2 games with Baylor. So, yeah, one-off, and then probably not quite yet ready to say much, but it does appear as if that momentum, of course, that we discussed for the last several months about this being the 1 year with the 14 teams, but nothing yet is official.
That's what, and it's weird that you would say doing this one time makes it harder. Usually, life makes it easier, but the way that scheduling normally works, you do these things out for a while, you know what it's going to be, you know how the rotation is going to be. Occasionally they kind of shake things up and turn things around, but the way it's worked in the Big 12 was when they had 12 teams it was one way, when they had 10 teams it was another way, and it was just a constant rotation until then. And then right now it's year to year until 2025, and they'll get back into that. But and then they could expand again, and then we're right back here, kind of where we started. But this one-off thing is pretty interesting to wrap your head around. That just because Texas is going to Houston will probably not get that chance to go back there unless they want to call and make some kind of non-con deal in the future.
TJ Scott in the chat room, and we did ask Chris, at least you have to ask the question about, will we hear about Oklahoma, Texas, maybe even during the upcoming Big 12 meetings? I don't know if it's that imminent or not. John Carpenter, West Virginia fan. I really hope West Virginia, Texas play at least one more time before they leave, maybe a while before they play again. And I don't want to see them tied at 6-6 in the series history. Would love to see West Virginia go up 7-6 there. Ryan Nelson, love seeing Tech finally getting a conference win. One of the unluckiest teams in the country, speaking of last night, down 20-plus points to a hot Iowa State team, although they did lose their game on Saturday in the SEC Challenge with the Big 12. But that was dramatic, and boy, did Mark Adams and company. One of the players in the postgame broke down emotionally, just tears in emotions, lip quivering because of what that meant to a team at 0-8. And now they get their first conference win last night. And we'll have Terrence Oglesby on men's basketball around the country in last night's and tonight's game, K-State and KU, at 3:30 today. So that's interesting. Thanks to all the comments, getting Houston on and Chris Pezman on. We appreciate his comments, too. And then at 3 o'clock, Kalani Sitake, the head coach at Brigham Young, will be joining us as well here on 365 Sports. We're now joined by UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn on 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Coach, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. What does just seeing the schedule now and its official mean?
Yeah, I tell you what's really big for us, obviously going to the Big 12 is big for our program in the future, and then you actually get to put dates with a schedule. And from a coach's standpoint, you can start preparing and getting ready, for the season.
Well, Coach, your first Big 12 game is against the defending conference champion. I know you welcome that challenge, but is that like what you'd call hazing? Is that what they do to the new guys?
Yeah, well, we got 5 road games, 4 home games the first year. So you kind of figure that, as a new team going into the conference. But you're exactly right. I mean, they won the Big 12. You have to go on the road. And, 2014 when I was at Auburn, I mean, we were a highly ranked team. We went in there on a Thursday night ESPN, and we just barely escaped with a win. And I think we were top 5 team in the country at the time. So I know how hard a place that is to go to anyway. But the kickoff conference schedule, that's a big challenge. But like I said, we're excited and looking forward to it.
Coach, when a new schedule drops, what are some of the first things that you look at?
Really, I think from my standpoint is just, the home and away, and then you look at the different teams and, try to plan accordingly. We've got a very tough schedule. There's no doubt. 5 away games, 4 home games. We go to Boise, at a conference, which is no treat either. But we got a real schedule. But like I said, we're just extremely excited to be joining the new conference and playing these new teams.
Coach Malzahn with us, UCF, again with us on 365 Sports. All right, when did you actually know this schedule? Was it today? Was it maybe a day or so ago? Because we know, and that it was delayed what seems like forever since we thought in October.
Yeah. No, I don't know exactly how long. I have had a really, really good idea about the teams we were going to play that were going to be home and away. We just didn't know the exact dates. So we just kind of kept that quiet and just kind of sat on it for, I don't know if it's been a month or so, something like that. But then you can kind of see the dates and how everything plays out. And then obviously strategically from a head coach's standpoint, you look to see where your open date is too. So we were just kind of waiting on those things.
It is obviously now very different. It's still not easy to build a roster, but there are more avenues for you to build a roster and change what you need. Do you feel like the last 2 years you've been able to start building the roster in the way that you can be as competitive as you'd like to be right away in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've done very well recruiting the last couple of years. The challenge is about 3 months ago that's when I really think everything changed, as far as the one-time transfer, the NIL and everything. And then you have other teams actively recruiting your players and you may lose some, you got to replace them. So I just think there's more challenges from a head coach's standpoint right now than ever before. But I really feel good about the current players we have. Like I said, we've recruited. I think we've had both years the best recruiting class in school history back-to-back years. I think we'll do that again this third year. And that's what it's going to take going this next conference. I mean, there's great teams, great coaches, in this conference.
Gus, I know you can't say anything specific about tomorrow, but there was the early signing period, and that's now become a thing, obviously. Is tomorrow, which normally would be like a national holiday in college football with national signing, is it the same?
No, I really what you've seen the last couple of years is the early signing period has really been the main one, I think, for everyone. For the most part, there's exceptions, and there'll still be few around the country. But for the most part, I think teams have their roster pretty much figured out. Obviously the portal window closed a week or so ago. That was a huge time too. And we did very well in that area, and we needed to.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about John Rice Plumlee while we had you on. You've coached a lot of different places a long time. Have you ever had a quarterback that runs as fast and as well as he does?
Tell you what, I've been real blessed to coach some really fast guys. He's right up there. There's no doubt. And each game, he got better at throwing the ball down the field, which is really good. If he would have stayed healthy, I mean, we'd have had a chance to go to the Cotton Bowl and all that and see what happened in that game. But he did a really good job for us. Got a little banged up towards the end, but really feel great about his future. And then we got some other quarterbacks, with him that definitely can do a good job for us too.
Gus, I know you have a meeting to get into. We mentioned the fall of 2021 when everything became official of who was joining the Big 12. Understand what that meant. What does today, the times, the sites, and all that you mentioned, but what does today now that it's an official schedule mean to UCF football? Yeah,
I think for our fan base and probably even, the players, our fans, our boosters that have been here for such a long time. It is really historic. I mean, it's really a huge step for our program. I mean, there's been great players and great coaches before me that helped us get to this point. So I think it's just, from a program, from a school, fan base, all the above, it's just a huge step in the right direction. And this is a super place. I mean, this place is set up, and I'm just blessed to be the head coach here.
You guys have kind of a unique situation when it comes to telling your players some of the places they'll get to play games state-wise, and where a lot of the talent is Florida and Texas, where you guys are in Florida, where we are in Texas. And has that kind of made it unique and exciting for you to be able to go into Texas and recruit and tell people you're going to get to play games in Florida, or go into Texas, and all those things to kind of maybe overlap that, where the other schools in your state and the other schools in this state really don't get to say that?
Yeah, I think you're right. Of course, I'm very familiar with the state of Texas and recruited a lot of guys there in the past. So going to this new conference, I think it opens up some recruiting areas. This state in Florida, I mean, we're right in the middle of the state. I mean, it's like a gold mine as far as location goes in the state. There's so many great players, but taking that next step and going into the Big 12, Texas will definitely be a factor for us recruiting.
All right, last thing. You will have Baylor at home in your first, I believe, home game in the Big 12. They played in Orlando back when they played a bowl game, but it's not the same place. How do you describe, for someone who's not been there as a fan or a player, the Bounce House?
Yeah, the Bounce House is very unique. I've been real blessed to coach at, just about every venue in the country that with the big schools, and this is such a unique place. The stands and the fans are right on top of you. And they call it the Bounce House for a reason. It actually shakes, and you can really feel the ground shake at certain times too. So it's a great place to play, and I think the Big 12 teams will enjoy coming here.
Thank you, Gus. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
All right, guys.
Thanks
you. For having me,
Gus
guys.
Malzahn, UCF football coach, the Knights, and, of course, as Craig reminded me, Baylor played in Orlando, but not at the same place. It was against North Carolina, and UCF spanked Baylor in 2013 at the Fiesta Bowl, Blake Bortles and company, in that specific game. All right, so we've heard from Chris Pezman, we've heard from Gus Malzahn, and you can feel what it means to them. I think it means a lot to everybody, but you can just kind of get that sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. You know what? I think it's, for us, exciting to just, kind of start planning for next year. I mean, I like, selfishly that Baylor's got 8 home games. That's awesome. That means there's very little road trips to have to worry about, problem solving or gearing up for all of that. That makes it nice. But, yeah, there's some unique road trips on there, like going to Orlando to take on UCF early in that Big 12 schedule. So that's new and fresh and exciting. But I would imagine for, like we talked with Chris Pezman and like Gus Malzahn there, I mean, Gus has been at the highest of levels. So,
sure.
I think it's cool for him, but it's probably not like the biggest thing in the world. Although I do think he was genuinely enthusiastic there. But you could tell really with Chris Pezman of like how special this is, because, I mean, to look at your schedule and to see Baylor and to see Texas Tech and to see those types of teams that otherwise were non-conference games, even though they're right next to you, and you felt as though you belonged on that same level with them, but you weren't necessarily treated or viewed that way. You were viewed a step down. I mean, now you're playing them. Playing them week in and week out. You got a chance to win that conference title that, otherwise was never possible. And so, I can only imagine how Houston fans must feel today, just being able to see what's going to be rolling into town on a regular basis and where they now get to go. And, I'm sure it's the same for the other schools as well. I know I see a lot of BYU. Haven't seen as much Cincy, but I haven't really been looking. But, it's new, it's fresh, and it should be a lot of fun. So, yeah, it's very exciting.
All right, when we come back, I just was confirming that Kalani Sitake, Brigham Young head coach, who we've had on a handful of times because of Baylor and Brigham Young the last couple of years, plus when they joined the conference in the same year of 2021. He'll join us a little bit after 3 o'clock. Baylor and Brigham Young not playing this coming season, but obviously get his feedback on what it is with Brigham Young and what Craig keeps asking the question that I think it's the best question. What do you look for, AD-wise, with Chris Pezman? What do you look for as a football coach with Gus Malzahn. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza, you go online and order basically anything you want from, of course, pizza, and then sandwiches, salads, and if you want, even the pizza bowls, which is a little bit unique of having a pizza, but just in a different type of way. Marco's Pizza with the pepperoni magnifico. You can go online, marcos.com, and you get specials. So the code words or code numbers, whatever you want. And you can plug that in, order your pizza, and get discounts, sometimes up to even 30% off. Also, they have an app. If you use the app the first time you use it, you get a discount on the menu items you order that first time. If you want them delivering to you, a day like today, nasty weather, snowing a little bit. We saw flakes a little bit in Waco, and wherever you are, if you have a Marco's Pizza, they, of course, deliver. 5 locations in the Waco area, from Belmead to China Spring to Woodway, Hewitt, and also in Robinson. Bob Mock, the owner. They are looking for those to run the various stores, looking for pizza delivery men and women, and also looking for those who also are involved in other parts of the store at marcos.com.
Qualified buyers at 5.49% for 72 with 5,000 down, cash or trade, TT Electric, see deal for details. It's the New Year, New Ride pre-owned savings event at Richard Carr with the biggest selection in years on pre-owned cars and trucks. Qualified buyers can find great deals like a 2014 Buick Encore for only $149 a month, or a 2015 Kia Sorento for $237 a month, or a 2015 Ford F-150 truck for $392 a month. Over 80 used, thoroughly inspected vehicles in stock. 100% approval is always our goal. Get here now for the New Year, New Ride savings event at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
What are you waiting for? Next year's New Year's resolution to lose weight, get fit, start working out? 3, 2, 1, go to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. If you really want to get in shape, get rid of weight or inches, you have to make a commitment to work out, and the excuses of not enough time, you're too tired or too busy. There's a special place that will change your life at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco, and they have a commitment to you too. With personal trainers Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Bosch, state-of-the-art Cybex equipment, new weights and spin bikes, clean and spacious locker rooms, each with a whirlpool and sauna, and a staff that will know your name when you walk through the front door. Elite tennis facilities and a great tennis pro in Britt Coleman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a place you can call home, a place you can work out on your own or with 40-plus group exercise classes. It's time for you to get in shape, lose inches, get fit at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Craig will rejoin us here momentarily. Jack McKenzie's been here since well before we came on with our special edition of the Big 12 Football Conference schedule release. We'll take you until 4 o'clock, so a little over an hour from now. Do you have a top 5 today?
I do. Right. I waited until the schedule was released to kind of throw it together, and it may not even be the top 5 best things about it, but based on trying to get it done before the end of the show and getting it out to the proper parties, I threw 5 ideas on the schedule. I thought doing anything other than the schedule for our special schedule release party here would have been kind of foolish.
Garrett, you have seen it. You've posted the schedules. And Jack's, of course, and Paul, we've been floating all that stuff to your graphics. Your thoughts, anything in particular from your end of what we've done today as far as the schedule itself?
I think it's unique looking at TCU schedule and really how that was backloaded there with some of those not the new teams coming in. I think looking at Houston and seeing that they actually get to welcome in Texas is nice. I haven't really had an opportunity to do a deep dive, but those are some of the things I've noticed initially.
What would have been the biggest, and everyone looks at schedules, who's going to be on the road, who's going to be able to stay in the state. We've mentioned a couple of different schools, including Houston. Obviously, Texas has that long stretch from week 2 to week 13. Baylor's not playing any of the schools from Oklahoma. Some schools are playing all 4 of the incoming schools, and some aren't. What would have been the biggest outrage had a game not been on the 2023 schedule?
I think Texas at Houston would have been the biggest. Because I think everything else that you lose, I mean, most of it you're only losing for a year or so, and then it'll be back, a pretty regular rotation. Now, you're not going to play 11 non-conference games and 1 conference game, so every other year there's going to be people you don't play, but you'll play them enough to where it won't be how the old non-conference schedules used to be, especially in the SEC, where – when they expanded, it was like Missouri and, Alabama were going to play once every 11 years, and that's just silly. So, but I think that would have been the one I think people would have rided over if Houston had to go to Texas or Texas didn't go to Houston. I mean, that to me, for Houston coming in, and you heard Chris Pezman say it was like really important for them to be able to get that opportunity to have that game at their place.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that comes to mind. I don't know what would even be another candidate, though. Like, I mean, that's
because
just
Oklahoma and Bedlam and Oklahoma State were going to happen.
That's not going to not happen. They were not going to have no Baylor TCU. They weren't going to have no Bedlam. They weren't going to have no Red River. So, I mean, I'm sure each individual fan base probably has, somebody, but I'm not thinking about what Cincinnati would be PO'd at. Like, I don't know, and it doesn't really matter to me in that way that that's a focus. So, yeah, I think you'd have to ask each fan base of what that would have been for them. But, I mean, Oklahoma State, Texas, that triangle or I guess that pair of Oklahoma games, those had to happen. Baylor TCU had to happen. I don't know what other ones are like mandatory though. I don't know what else would be. I mean, Kansas State, like that's obvious. Yeah. But I don't know what else would, like, we have to see this. Houston, Texas was really the only one for me, so long as it was in Houston and at their actual stadium, not at NRG, and that's what we're getting. So I'm happy to see that. I think that's just the smart thing to do. I know you can make more money by hosting it at NRG, but it's a home game. It's not a neutral site, non-conference game that you're just trying to sell as many tickets as possible. So, yeah, that's the way that it should have been, and it's the least they could do, because outside of that, I feel like they treated Oklahoma and Texas pretty dadgum well on their way out. And I don't know to what extent that was part of conversations or if that was just pure blind luck from the algorithm. But, whatever it was, I think those two are probably happy with what their last year looks like, if that's their last year.
Well, you also, like, it's complex to take into consideration. So everybody's going to have to get rid of one thing they don't like. And for Baylor fans, it's not playing any of the Oklahoma schools. But one of them you're going to have to play all the time, so that's not a big deal. But not getting to play Oklahoma may be kind of a bee in your bonnet. But, it was either that or probably not play Texas, right? Because you're going to have to play the new schools. And for the new schools, it was going to be, well, you're probably going to play one or the other, but not both. all the way through. I mean, I don't think either one of them have both Texas and OU on, if I'm not mistaken. So those are things you have to balance. And then look, if you're Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, you're all going to want to play Texas. If you're Oklahoma, you're going to want to play or Oklahoma State, you're going to want to play Oklahoma. Those things kind of have to be sacrosanct. Everything else can kind of move around. If you're one of the old Big 8 teams, you probably want to play Oklahoma, like as a fan base. So making sure that the old Big 8, the old Southwest Conference, all of that stuff, those older rivalries get played was the added complication on here, because it wasn't like the Big 12 was the conference for, 90 years. It's not that old of a league. It's
96.
It's two different leagues.
Yeah.
It's the Southwest Conference and the Big 12 or the Big 8 together. So making sure that the old school stuff still stuck together, plus incorporating the new had to make it even more complex, because if it was just 50 years of the same 12 teams,
right,
then everybody would be like, yeah, well, we all kind of have the same thing, so go.
Somebody mentioned in the chat room, and again, these days are over, that what was really unique about the Big 12, and really only recently did maybe others around the country start to understand, everybody played everybody. And that's just not the case in college football because of the 10 teams. Everyone got to play. Nobody got a schedule break. Nobody was able to maybe not dodge, because the schedule's the schedule, but yeah, you don't have to play someone who might be that year really, really good. And those days are over. From Joel, who's a UCF fan, UCF goes out to Idaho. They play at Boise, comes home, goes out to Kansas, comes home, goes back out to Kansas, comes home, get a bye week, and then play Oklahoma. So they do have 4 pretty lengthy trips that they're going to make in that schedule.
Yeah, well, Cincinnati's not close to Orlando either.
Yeah, so that's one of them. I'm a UCF fan.
Nor is Lubbock, so they have to go all those places. They're going to have a lot of time, long plane flights.
They have, you're right. Kansas State, that's in Manhattan. Then they go back to Kansas. They go to Norman, at Cincinnati, which is a common opponent in the American Conference, and then all the way to Lubbock. So that's a long schedule of road trips, and someone's going to get stuck with that, and then the possibility that flips the following year, where a lot of those games UCF plays. Of course, they're going to be traveling more than most everybody else because of their locale.
Iowa State's going to be looking at bowl game might be tricky, looking at their schedule. Looking at Iowa in week number 2, which, hey, they finally got that win this past year, but didn't mean anything really in the long run outside of bragging rights. It didn't lead to some great season that followed. But Ohio, that's, they can start off 2-1, if not 3-0, but they play both the Oklahoma schools. They play TCU. They're at Cincinnati. They're at Baylor. Kansas at home, at BYU, Texas at home, at K-State. That's a pretty tough schedule right there for Iowa State.
When we come back, BYU, we have gotten to know them very well. They're going to play Texas this year, which they've done in the past and had success with that. It's been a while. Kalani Sitake, Brigham Young football coach, and his thoughts about the schedule release and the schedule for the Cougars next on 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, their brand new location is up, open, and available, and it has made them a place that has been excellent since 1943, even better. They've always had great product. They've always had amazing customer service. They will always have that customer service from what they started in 1943, but now they have even more of that great product. And one of the things that's kind of interesting is that, for example, tubing. They had certain lengths. Now they can cut even better, specific lengths, so you don't have to go get the tubing from them and then take it to somebody else and have them cut it. They can have specific lengths, smaller lengths, shorter lengths for you when it comes to that. You want heavy product for building, commercial, or real estate, they have it. They're the best when it comes to what they do and have been since 1943. PioneerBoys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
No Off the Radar today. We will have a top 5 here at the end of this specific hour. Thank you for joining us today. Bearcast with Craig and Grayson started earlier today, mainly about recruiting, about the big weekend, the junior champions weekend they had. And they had Siraki, one of the offensive linemen from the Woodlands, who committed today, and other news, and including answering a lot of questions that people have when it comes to the Bearcast. We started right at 1 o'clock, right when the Big 12 officially released their schedule. And we have heard from 2 of the incoming 4 schools in Houston and also UCF, and we're about to hear from what has become a great friend of the show, and Kalani Sitake, the head coach at Brigham Young. So thanks to Garrett Ross for being here for a long time today, Craig Smoak for a long time today, Jack McKenzie for a long time today, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak, Craig Smoak, and joined by one of our great friends, Kalani Sitake, head coach at Brigham Young. We're kind of bummed no Brigham Young and Baylor this year after the last couple of years, Coach.
I know. It seemed like it was kind of an annual thing. So I'm, but I'm pretty sure the conference will allow us to play again soon. But just looking forward to this season. Looking forward to the excitement, the energy that's kind of surrounding the release of the schedule today.
What was it like when you finally saw it? I mean, just to get it out there after it seemed like delay after delay after delay.
No, it's always fun when you get to know what you're doing, and I think the just a delay on all of it kind of maybe built it up a little bit. Maybe they're going to do a release like this every year. It seemed like it generated tons of excitement. I know that from our fan base, but also from other fan bases, you can just see that there's a lot of discussion about the games and who's not playing who and who is playing who's on the road, who's got the 5 home games, who's got the 5 away games, things like that. But I know that it's one of the hot topics going around, and it looks like a really competitive schedule for everybody involved in the conference.
How do you feel it landed for you guys as far as, just the logistics of it, where you have to go and the balance of the year?
Well, after being an independent schedule for, I just finished my 7th year as a head coach. It looks good to have a bye right there in the middle of the season, and we've had the last couple of years had it way towards the end. We've always started with, with 3 to 4 to 5 P5s in a row, and so it's nice to see the schedule build up, just kind of like how everybody else is doing, and so we're really excited about the schedule. It didn't really matter who was going to be on it. I think the excitement and energy going towards the Big 12, we've seen it already happening with recruiting and with the way our fans are just so. I mean, we're seeing the Big 12 logo all over the place, and so there's a tons of energy around it, and I can't wait to see that stadium rock and roll when it's time to roll this season.
Coach, looking at there's various parts. I was asking Coach Malzahn a little while earlier, what's the first thing that he looks at? And I'd be curious for you as well. But, I mean, there is a back-to-back where there's going to be some travel involved there in October, November, going to Austin and then turning around and going to Morgantown. But to your point earlier, playing the schedule that you guys play, do you feel like that'll be less of an issue than it would be maybe for some other teams who are more used to a regionalized format?
Yeah, I think the majority of our guys are used to doing that already. The returning players are used to going, 2 time zones away, even back to back to back. We've done that before. So I think there's guys on the team that are used to going back east and being out there a few times in a year. From what I look out here, it's happening once. We go to West Virginia. Everything else is pretty much within reason in terms of the time zones that we're traveling to. So I know that all the games are difficult. When you're looking at the opponents that are on our schedule, we know that it's going to take our best to get ready, and then that the preparation starts now. And so all of the energy in our preparation and our focus is on all 12 of the teams on our schedule. But, just a lot of, for me, it's just a lot of gratitude and excitement knowing that we're going to generate some kind of familiarity with the opponents, with the stadiums. Not this year, but, in the years to come, we'll get used to being in certain places. We've been to Waco before. I know haven't played there, not playing there, who knows when, but now we can establish a little bit of connection and being familiar with each other, just like when Aranda brought his crew out here this last season.
Yeah, that was an incredible. All Baylor fans who made that trip, Coach, all of them just could not stop raving about the atmosphere and how it'd be great to duplicate that, not only just in Waco, but elsewhere. So, you've been with us really from the beginning when all of this started to change back in 2021 when the Big 12 looked at expanding. And we've heard your reactions and opinions along the way. Does this kind of bring back that excitement of back in the fall of 21 when you knew it was official, you were starting and joining the Big 12?
Of course. I mean, back then it was really exciting, but then it was, hey, that's not for another couple of years, and so it's like saying, hey, we're so excited about Christmas on New Year's Day. You know what I mean? So, and now I think we're rounding the corner where it's like, hey, we actually see it. It's in sight of basically it's the next season. Last year when we played the 2022 season, you still had to put the delay because that there's players that aren't going to be playing in the Big 12 and aren't going to be playing the schedule. And now that we're here, this is it. This is the time. We're talking about the schedule. The boys are going to be working out, focusing on our players are really excited about seeing the opponents they're going to play at and the venues they're going to be playing at. They're looking it up. And anytime you can get the guys focused on the season, focused on football, it's a really good thing for our program. And now that it's here, there's no more delay. You just keep working the energy and keep trying to add to it and try to keep them motivated, knowing that it's going to take quite a bit for us to be ready for this. I feel like the focus now is, hey, let's make sure that we show up and we're at our best, because it's going to take that in order for us to play this really tough schedule that's coming ahead.
Well, Coach, one of the things that jumps out at me is, one of your non-conference games is Arkansas. You play TCU, Tech, and Texas. Those are all back-to-back. Part of me thinks that maybe they thought at the beginning you guys joined the Southwest Conference. You might want to, line up and run the wishbone. I mean, that's fullback, so that's good for you.
Yeah, I can't complain about that, man. It'll be a bit of good old throwback to the old days. I can't believe I'm saying that. I feel old right now.
Well, I don't
back when the shotgun was only done on third and long.
I love it. So tomorrow's National Signing Day. I know you can't get into specifics, but when we had Coach Malzahn, we asked him this as well. National Signing Day. There's the new early one in December. How much dramatically different is it because there's the early signing period compared to what tomorrow would be almost a national holiday for college football fans?
Well, I think there's two parts to it. The early signing day does take a lot of it kind of splits up the excitement and the celebration of the signings, because you get a good portion of your guys signed in December. But then there's also this transition with the portal and new people coming in, and for us guys that are returning home from their missions, where you get a new batch of guys that come in January that you can announce, and then also combination with the guys that you sign in February. So I think those three time periods from December, January enrollment, and first Wednesday in February, the signing day, I think that kind of completes all of it. But you can really talk about the January enrollment newcomers is in combination with the guys that we're signing towards the end, because it used to be only that one, and you just kind of make a big announcement. But now we've had a big announcement with the majority of our guys that are signed. But now we can make another announcement with the majority of our guys that are on our program right now.
Is it kind of cool to get Texas back on your schedule for at least this 1 year?
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see our fellow Cougar there, Sark. I'm excited to get out there and go visit him in Austin. So there's a lot of connections from that we have to a lot of different places, and hopefully when we go out to. Obviously, when we go play Kansas, we'll be nearby, with Andy Reid being there in Kansas City. So there's a lot. Looking at the schedule, there could be some, combo accomplishments in all these destinations that we're traveling to.
Yeah, OU, Texas, and back-to-back playoff teams when you think about TCU and Cincinnati as well. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. I'm the schedule's here, and I can't stop looking at it. It's just that exciting.
Coach, you were a part. Well, you weren't. You weren't a part of any of those games, were you? You were. That was well before you, or what? I can't remember. With Texas.
Which games? Oh, I was at Utah. I was defense coordinator there in Utah when that was going on. Yeah. And then I coached Taysom his senior year when my first year on the job here.
Okay, well, Texas doesn't want to see Taysom Hill again. I know that after.
I know. I got to figure out a way to get him back on the field if we can by that game. That'd be nice.
Look, if you can just invite him to the game, hopefully the bye week works out. Just have him there, standing and waving at him.
Yeah, Coach.
Yeah, I don't know if the Saints will be needing him that week, but we could definitely use him.
I think anyone could. And thank you for your time. It's been always great to have you on. Get a chance to visit with you whenever you can. And thank you for your time. Enjoy the day. Enjoy whatever you have to wrap up tomorrow, and we'll see you soon.
Gentlemen, thank you. The honor is all mine.
Yes, sir. You too. Kalani Sitake, Brigham Young head football coach on 365 Sports. It's been great to get to know. Cincinnati, we had the AD, Coach Mr. Cunningham on. Never did get Fickle. Now he's gone. We'll work on that.
I think Luke Fickle did that for our emotions. He didn't want us to get attached. Like the same reason you don't get like a little kid a puppy, if you're not going to intend to keep it. You don't bring a puppy in the house. That's probably what it was. We get emotional.
Yeah, how kind of him. Already plotting out everything and including us in his thoughts as he headed for Wisconsin. Yeah.
Day-old donuts on the chat room, and thank you to all who have been a part of that, plus also the text line. I was at the Brigham Young, Texas game in Austin in 2014. I came for the game and barbecue at Franklin the following Monday, and that's from Day-Old Donuts.
Probably waited in line longer at Franklin than the whole game would take, but certainly worth it if you're coming into town in Austin to get maybe a top. I don't want to say not maybe.
See,
it's
I don't
a
know how
top
you
five
can rank
meal.
them. I don't think it. I think
it's a top 5 meal you can get in the country.
I think it's impossible to be able to rank how elite so many barbecue places are to be, but it's part of the deal. You got to do that. At Juan, Smokey, can you guys try to get Dana Holgerson from Juan? Thank you, Juan. We had Chris Pezman on. It's been a while, ever since 2021, the fall. Haven't been able to get either one, and we appreciate Chris Pezman for coming on today, working on all the coaches. We have invitations out to many of the programs. All right, we're not done. We'll continue to come back. We'll get into the chat room. More on the schedule. Terrence Oglesby covers men's basketball. Texas last night with a critical win against Baylor at home. Also, tonight, Kansas and Kansas State. Tech finally got a win, an emotional win after being down big to Iowa State, and more. And this is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. Carol, Cheyenne, and Ashley, they run it. 48-foot walk-in humidor. The other day I was there, and I said, hey, I'm looking for a cigar in your humidor. And I think it was Ashley. She said, all of them? I was like, no, I was looking for a couple specific type. It was like a box cut. It's a square cut cigar. So she helped me find a couple that I was able to buy. Also, a new humidor to put the cigars in. The one I had is fine, but it had a crack. I guess the latch in the back was cracked, and so it was allowing a little, just enough to where some of the cigars were not as moist as you need them to be or how you want them, and so they were fraying just a little bit, so they were able to help me out with that too. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans also with VitaDreams. It's a CBD product that helps you, aids you in being able to fall asleep a little bit better, a little bit faster, saving the fact that you may toss and turn throughout the night and getting that extra 30 minutes or maybe even an hour or two of sleep. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Start your year off at the Start Something New sales event. Get 2.9% for 72 months on new 2022 Ram 1500 crew cabs on all trim levels. That's right. Hurry. Don't wait. Offer only while supplies last at Allen Samuels in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments, with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We will discuss men's basketball with Terrence Oglesby, the Field of 68, here in about 10 or 15 minutes. Tonight, Kansas and Kansas State, a game that turned around quickly on the schedule after K-State won at home against Kansas. That's the game when Jerome Tang was trying to at least teach the K-State fans about what you do and the energy into what you are, who you are, and all of that. Wildcats, huge win for K-State. Flip or turn around against Kansas tonight in Lawrence. Last night, Texas was better. Texas's bench outscored Baylor 30-6. Baylor, of course, usually has an advantage from the perimeter. They were 8 of 26. Texas was 8 of 22. Rice was critical. Hunter was really good. I even said that yesterday to Jeff Powell. Was he kind of due for a breakout game? He had 13, but he hit some critical shots.
Jabari Rice was the
4 or 5 shooting from outside the arc.
Yeah, I think he was maybe the difference, especially down the stretch for Texas in that game. He played really, really well. Baylor, that game pretty much went exactly as it should have been. Both teams had chances to win it. It was back and forth. Texas controlled it most of the time. And look, if you're the number 10 team playing the number 11 team at home, you should probably win that game. I mean, that's what you should probably do. So if I'm a Baylor fan, I'm not worried about after last night. I think they availed themselves well, especially after a really tough game at home against Arkansas, and Texas bouncing back after kind of getting a little thumped by Tennessee. Was good for them. But yeah, it was just another classic Big 12 tilt last night.
Rice was really good, 21. He didn't miss but 2 shots, 1 from the free throw line. But Timmy Allen, his height, that hurt. Baylor just doesn't have anything inside when it comes to offense. Flo Thamba, he's been around. He's started an amazing amount of games. But inside, any kind of a shot he's going to get off, it's just not going to be something he's going to be able to do very often unless it's pretty much an open alley-oop or a dunk. When he has the ball underneath the basket for a big man, his ability to hold on to the basketball going up to the rim and getting at least fouled is just not something he's going to do very often. And so last night, not much from inside. Bridges made big plays. Keontae George, I thought the shot he took from 30 feet, that's a shot he's confident. He'll make it most of the time. But that, I thought, was rushed with 18 seconds to go. Adam Flagler, another off night. Great player, but another off night after what he had as far as recently. but Baylor again loses 76-71, and a big-time win for Texas because they're atop the Big 12 standings at 7-2. Iowa State lost, blew a 23-point lead. They're now 6-3. Baylor 5-4. Kansas State will try to get to 7-2 tonight. And if Kansas beats Kansas State in Lawrence, UT alone at the top of the Big 12 standings at 7-2. West Virginia plays at TCU tonight. Tomorrow night, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma in the college men's basketball version of Bedlam. Now, the Cowboys offensive coordinator position, or whatever that position is going to be called, because Kellen Moore no longer a part of the franchise, and immediately picked up by the LA Chargers. This from Joe Pearson. Panthers running backs coach and former Baylor offensive coordinator Jeff Nixon has an interview set up with the Cowboys for the offensive coordinator jobs, according to a league source. He, of course, called plays in 2021 after Joe Brady was fired. Had a nice run this year at running back with Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard, a couple of Big 12 guys, after, of course, they traded McCaffrey to San Francisco.
I hope he gets this job, actually. I mean, this is selfish for me. I mean, I do think that Mike McCarthy's going to call the plays. And Jeff Nixon, being one of the OC candidates, maybe kind of fits into that a little bit in that. But I probably hope he gets this job selfishly because, we know him so well and his, and Will and, the family and how great they are and how we got to kind of know them when they're here. So, but I do think that the running backs wise, the Cowboys are very much in flux, and bringing in somebody who's had success with guys, especially after Christian McCaffrey got hurt, could be good for them because Ezekiel Elliott's not going to be there. I don't see any way that's going to happen. They're probably going to use the franchise tag on Tony Pollard because of the injury. That makes the most sense. It's $10 million. And then they're probably going to have to use an early draft pick on a running back as well because Tony Pollard broke his leg in the last game of the season, so no guarantee he's going to be ready for training camp. So you want somebody who's had a good track record with a diverse set of backs, and I think Jeff Nixon brings that to that offense. So I do. I hope they hire him for something, and I hope it's offensive coordinator for his sake and for his future career.
I mean, he'd certainly be dealing with a step up in weapons than what he had in Carolina, compared to what Dallas has at their disposal. But I'm not sure how much that'll really be a big celebratory hire for most of the fan base if they make it. I don't think he really registers, and he only registers for us because he coached in Waco for a couple years. I mean, not to take away from the marks that he's made elsewhere throughout his career, but I know if it wasn't for his time at Baylor, I wouldn't have blinked. I'd be like, Jeff who? Like, let's look into him a little bit. But I mean, knowing what little I know, think he does a great job, and think he probably got far too much criticism when he was in Waco. Given what he was dealing with at certain positions and just the youth and things. I mean, you could have had throw in the name of Moore, Kingsbury, Leftwich. I mean, I don't think anybody was really like working magic with some of the offensive talent that he had to work with, which was either kind of sparing or just was young. I mean, eventually those guys went off to, a bunch of them, like the Tyquan Thorntons of the world, went on to, go play in the NFL, get drafted. But, what they walked into was not an empty cupboard, but it wasn't far off from that, in so many ways by the time that they arrived. So, yeah, I mean, a good dude. Loved covering his son, William, who is – where is he now? He's –
Washington.
He's in Washington, yeah.
But, originally signed with Nebraska, played here at Midway. But, yeah, like the Nixons, big fan of William, and hope that'd be cool, if he got that job. But I'm curious to see what other names are out there floating around that they may talk to.
All right. By the way, Sean Payton, this just happened, thought he was out of the running for a new coaching NFL job, and it looked like he was going to stay in broadcasting. Obviously, things changed. He now will take over as the head coach of the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, he's got a project on his hands, getting Russell Wilson back to his former glory. I think that's the best person the Broncos could have hired to deal with that situation. I don't think there's anybody better at coaching quarterbacks in the NFL than Sean Payton. So, if anybody can get Russ back, then I think it's Sean Payton. There's going to be draft pick compensation. I'm curious as to what it is, how valuable the Saints.
What do you think? It would be a first-round pick?
I mean, I think that's what they're going to ask for. It's going to be a high.
Does Denver have any first-round picks?
Yeah, they do. They had one coming back in another deal, I think, from the Dolphins or something that they made for Bradley. I can't remember. I have to look. But, yeah, I mean, it might have to be a future first-round pick, if not that. Maybe that's why they're working out. Maybe Denver can say, like, what if we don't give you this year's, we'll give you next year's or something like that. So.
On the chat room, Ryan Nelson, thank you for the $5 super chat. Last 3 years for KSU. 2020 lost to Arkansas State. 2021 lost to Southern Illinois. 2021, win 31-23 over Southern Illinois. Sorry about that, the Salukis. And 2022 lost to Tulane, who in fact became one of the best stories in college football and also winning the Cotton Bowl against USC. They have a home game with Troy to start out 2023.
Denver's 2023 first-round pick, next year's second-round pick, and Denver will send their 2023 first-rounder and next year's second-rounder to New Orleans for Sean Payton and the Saints' 2024 third-round pick. So Payton in a 2024 third-rounder for 2023 first-rounder and 2024 second-rounder. That's the swap.
Yep.
Right there.
And D'Amico Ryans to the Texans is official. This should be no surprise. I think that's a fantastic hire for the Texans. It's the first time they've done anything that should get their fans excited in a long time. And kind of thought this was going to be happening about 30 minutes ago when you heard the 49ers ask the Panthers for permission to speak to Steve Wilks about their open DC spot. So, because Steve Wilks still under contract to the Panthers right now.
Retired stockbroker, you are fantastic. $10 super chat, no comment, no question, just supporting the show. Thank you. By the way, he did say this. I'm paying up. Which badass steakhouse in Waco? Probably has to be Friday, to be the Friday before Saturday night, but I'm buying, brother. There are a nice handful of great steakhouse. 135 Prime. You have Diamondbacks downtown. And, of course, as I said, to me, the best bone-in ribeye anywhere where I've eaten has been at Texas Roadhouse. So right there, just off of I-35.
I had, on Saturday night, a delicious ribeye at the Baylor Club.
At the Baylor Club, which is, of course, a great place as well. And so, retired stockbroker, let's stay in touch. Jeremy Callahan, K-State schedule looks kind of light. Utah will be a tough one for Baylor. Yes, it will absolutely be a tough one in the second week of the season after they open up against Texas State.
I think there's a lot of people feeling like their schedules are light. I just saw a Tech guy predict 10-2. I'm looking at Baylor. I'm looking at 8-4. I'm seeing a lot of fan bases say that. I think part of it's just that you have some mix of new schools who you probably feel like you're going to have an advantage over, and you're also seeing less schools that maybe have beaten you regularly or given you problems. So I think it's a combination that a lot of people are feeling like they've got a better road in front of them than maybe they would have thought, in different times with the different conference setup. And, I'd be curious to see how, everybody's feeling after the end of the year. I do think West Virginia's got a pretty tough road, and I do think there's, some other bumps. But, there's a lot of schools, a lot of fan bases that feel like, our schedule looks pretty good. So, I think that must be just the feeling of the new schools and maybe not playing Oklahoma or Texas on your particular schedule. But a lot of confidence, and that's what's, fun is it's, brand new team, brand new year, brand new schedule. Everything's brand new, and it's 0-0. So everybody's got optimism and hope right now, and that's always fun.
When we come back,
just run real quick college football story. Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator from Washington, had been offered the Alabama job. He turned it down. He's going to stay at Washington.
How about that? With
good
Penix
news for Husky fans.
When we come back, we will hear from Terrence Oglesby, the Field of 68. He does, obviously, a basketball podcast, covers games, does broadcast as well. And he's next on 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, full-service butcher shop and bakery. The butcher shop can take your customized orders, seafood, pork, poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks, from bacon-wrapped fillets to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. Also, Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey for lunches and meals, and variety of cheese, and several options of smoked and regular sausage. fresh chicken breast, whole chicken, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas. I made that the other day, and both of them were absolutely delicious. I rarely put any of the seasoning on because it was really good the way that it was. Always large briskets available, and maybe even biscuits because they have a bakery. Great product, customer service, tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Richard Carr has the new 2023 truck or SUV you want in stock today. The versatile GMC Terrain is waiting for you. Qualified buyers get 3.9% financing and a $750 loyalty rebate for eligible GMC owners. Qualified buyers get 2.9% financing on most new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s in stock, or 3.9% on all 2023 Buick Envision, Encore, and Enclave SUVs in stock. Call now, get here now, or log on to get all the details and to drive home your new GMC or Buick today.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you. Car's priced right both day and night. At Richard Carr in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Carr in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Carr in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs. Knowing you, that's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Terrence Oglesby, The Field of 68, a great podcast, a great college basketball podcast, and also he himself, a part of broadcast covering men's basketball, joins us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. Terrence, thanks for your time. I thought Texas last night, Texas and Baylor, a 2-game lead for Texas over Baylor, a chance they lead the conference by the end of the night if K-State loses. Your thoughts about Baylor? They got on a roll after a tough start, and what is missing in your opinion?
You know what? I think more than anything, I think it's taken Keontae George a little bit longer than I think people expected to really mesh with the other guards. And while the other Baylor guards are kind of willing to wait their turn and, kind of play off one another, Keontae George isn't necessarily wired like that. He's a guy that's saying, hey, I'm going to go get mine right now. And being the freshman that he is, sometimes he forces the issue and other guys kind of get frustrated. All of that being said, though, I mean, they're still 5-4 in the toughest league in the country. That really, that's something to be said right there. And Baylor, because that talent at the guard spot is still so good, I don't have any reason to believe this is huge cause for concern. However, the defensive end of the floor is where Keontae George is worrying me a little bit. He's not all that focused away from the ball. Some of the other older players are. And while he is really good in one-on-one situations, he can lose focus away from the basketball. I'm not saying he's the lone reason for some of their issues, because there's obviously not many. They're still ranked in the top 25 on a consistent basis. But what I am saying is, for them to hit their ceiling, he has to be completely locked in and focused from the time he sets foot on the floor on both ends of the floor.
Texas last night looked very much like the veteran team that they are. Rodney Terry's kept things going in spite of the Chris Beard firing and the tension around that. What has been the key for them? Is it being a veteran team that's been allowed them to deal with that so well?
Yeah, I'm going to say yeah. I mean, it has to be. And, Tyrese Hunter, the transfer from Iowa State, has fit in seamlessly. And he was more of a ball-dominant, find other guys in the offense guy at Iowa State. Now he's transitioned into more of a scoring guard. And as evidenced by going 5 of 17 yesterday from the floor, I would have anticipated it going the other way, in that Carr would be more of the offensive guy as far as trying to get his own shot, and Hunter kind of be the distributor. But it's the fact that Marcus Carr is that older player, and he's playing with some other guys. Mr. Allen, for example, Dylan DeSue. They have a bunch of older pieces that are willing to play roles, and Sir'Jabari Rice has come into his own as of late. And the job that staff has done after the departure of Chris Beard, and the fact that team has been able to stay together and stay focused on what they're trying to do, has been nothing short of remarkable. Because let's be honest, guys, these are still young men that struggle with a lot of off-the-court issues, and that was a pretty substantial issue that they had to answer for through no fault of their own. So for them to still be able to put up an 18-4 record, be 7-2 in the toughest conference in college basketball, it says a lot, not only about those kids, but that coaching staff that has been put in place as well.
Terrence, what'd you make of that terrific game last night, Texas Tech over Iowa State? I mean, that's now 3 losses in their last 4 for the Cyclones. And Texas Tech, I mean, they were in a world of hurt. And now, thanks to last night in the SEC Challenge against LSU, that's a couple wins in a row for the Red Raiders.
You know what? It's interesting how this game kind of ebbs and flows, right? But for the most part, this is a Texas Tech team that has struggled offensively at times during the season. I mean, you look at, they put together so many different pieces from all around, and it just hasn't quite meshed like a lot of people anticipated. And after losing, 8 in a row, for them to get LSU, who's reeling a little bit, you catch them at the right time. And guys, confidence is a fickle thing. And not only for the bad, but for the good as well. You see the ball go through the net a couple times, you score 76 points, and then you're able to knock down some shots against an Iowa State team who's consistently towards the top of the country in defense under TJ Otzelberger. So the fact that they're able to gather some confidence, they're moving the ball, and then you get guys that – young players, for example, Pop Isaac, who hasn't played all of his games, but at the same time, those guys need confidence. Devion Harmon is playing a singular role as a point guard this year. He needed some confidence kind of stepping into that. And Kevin O'Banner has been as good as we've all kind of anticipated. His percentages just haven't been great. So what happens? You play against LSU, you start to feel yourself a little bit, see the ball go through the net, and then it could snowball as you get back into conference play. Sometimes all you need is just a boost of confidence.
They also, and they needed to do something. They were down 23 or whatever it is. I saw a note from a couple of those that covered Tech. They went with a lot of full court pressure. Do you feel like that was like, what the hell, we have nothing to lose? And could that eventually now be what they do more often?
I mean, here's my thing. Whenever I was coaching, and I only coached for 3 years, so I don't try to claim to be some coach. But at the same time, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I know that saying stretches over to Texas all the way from Tennessee. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're under pressure a little bit, why wouldn't you? Especially with a team that's really struggled gathering their footing. We've expected this Texas Tech team to be among the top 3 defenses in the Big 12. Well, this season, out of 10 teams, they're number 9. That doesn't happen all that often. So what do you have to do? You have to mix it up some things. You mix up some things, you see some success. If that's what you have to do, play a couple of more bodies, put a little more pressure, and extend that defense out. I mean, obviously, that helps things. And sometimes, guys, too, whenever you extend the pressure out, you leave yourself vulnerable at the rim. But Daniel Bacho has been good at protecting the basket, so you can extend out a little bit further. And if you're able to create some live ball turnovers, if you're able to create some situations where, hey, there might be a tie-up and then we can take off and run with the basketball and create easier looks on offense, that certainly helps, because at times it's been a team that really struggles in the half court.
What do you think the record is of the team that wins the Big 12?
That's a great question. That is a great question. Out of 18 games, I would say 12-6 should win it.
Ken Palm.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah, Terrence. Ken Palm had something out a couple of days, maybe a week ago. He said there would be 4 teams at 11-7. So right there where you were mentioning, and maybe even 4 teams at 10-8. That's how the analytics look. So 12-6 would probably do it. Yeah.
12-6, 13-5. I think that'll probably do it, because guys like, for example, Kansas, they have to play Baylor away, then they play at Kentucky, and then now they have Kansas State at home, which we know how difficult a place it was to play at Manhattee and how Kansas State got that win, so their confidence is rolling a little bit. Oh, are you tired of Kansas State trying to beat them at home? Then you have to go to Hilton Coliseum. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. You want to play your next game? Texas at home. Good luck. I don't envy a single Big 12 coach, because it's just such a deep conference with quality coaches 1 through 10.
Oklahoma had just an absolute amazing win against Alabama, which I don't think anyone could have seen, not even the coach. But do you feel like because of a win like that, if they can somehow get near 500, 8-10 in the conference, does that give them a chance to get in the tournament?
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. There's so many quad 1 opportunities in that league that if you're able to, and guys, I want to make this abundantly clear. I hate the net. I absolutely hate the net. To me, a win is a win is a win. You look across the country, like Clemson goes down and wins at Florida State. Well, that's a quad 3 win. Well, if you take that into mind, that Florida State early in the season struggles because they have a ton of injuries and they basically snowballed at the beginning of the year. Now they're healthy. You go down there, you have to scrape and claw for a win in Tallahassee. That is historically a really tough place to play. You win that game by 1 point and you drop 5 spots. Please make it make sense. Makes no sense to me. I don't get it. All of that being said, with the net rankings currently construed the way they are, Oklahoma, if they're close to 500 in that league, I don't see how there's a justification to try to keep them out. It's just it's such a tough league with so many quad 1 opportunities. If you're close to 500 in the league, you almost have to be like, I'm just going to throw in the towel and give it to them, because it's such a good conference to play in, and you're able to do it consistently, at least be in games consistently. And the talent's there that's good enough to compete in the NCAA tournament.
Do you think, you mentioned that you don't envy the coaches in the league because of, the stretch. I mean, is it kind of weird that you could say, like, hey, let's go play at Kentucky where they have some real problems, and then that even in the tournament might be a little bit of a relief in the early rounds that you're just not seeing one of your fellow conference brethren again?
Okay, so I didn't quite understand that question. I'm sorry.
Is it kind of a relief for the coaches when they play outside the conference? Like now, like going forward tournament-wise, they just played, like Bill Self's easiest game of the last 3 weeks was going to be at Kentucky against Calipari. It's nuts.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said there. And there's also a lot to be said towards the bottom of the Big 12 with teams that are struggling to kind of get the rhythm, right? So Oklahoma gets out of conference. They play a different type of team in Alabama who didn't have their best game. And now after losing 3 in a row, you beat an Alabama team that's consensus top 5 in the country, depending on who you talk to. Well, it's no consensus. It's top 5 in the country. You have that kind of performance on their worst day. It's your best day. You get some confidence, and now you get to play Oklahoma State at home with a chance to turn things around in league. So I think it helps more so with the bottom of the conference than it does the top, just simply because the top of the SEC is on par with the top of the Big 12. Where the depth begins is in that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 area, where that's where the Big 12 really gets you, because those teams in the SEC would be in the top 5 if you plucked one and then set it in the SEC is from a talent perspective. So to agree with your point, for the bottom of the conference, yes. For the top of the conference, it's equally as difficult without Kentucky being in the mix, because they have the whole slew of problems that they've been struggling to get.
Okay, so I was watching a clip from a recent podcast. I think Rob Douster was on. It wasn't Jeff Goodman. It might have been somebody else. And I think someone was talking about either taking a clutch shot or I don't know what it was. How fast can you dial up the Tennessee fight song?
How fast can I do it?
Yep.
Okay, so if you need me to dial it up right now, I can get it up pretty quick on my phone.
Okay.
Pretty quick, because I have it saved in there. Here's the reason. So I grew up in East Tennessee. I grew up about 20 minutes outside of Knoxville. It was part of your 3rd grade curriculum to learn the words to Rocky Top. I was indoctrinated. This was not my choice. So now it's put into my bones. Like, I have no choice but to teach my kids Rocky Top, because I felt like that's a part of my upbringing. That all being said, I end up at Clemson, and it's kind of the same way. I'm trying to teach them the cadence count at Clemson, all those different things. But Rocky Top is on the phone for no other reason than it reminds me of home.
I love it. I love the fight song. A lot of people do. I love it. I think it's one of the most hip ones as far as just the beat and all the stuff. It just sounds cool to me.
Timeless. It's timeless.
Terrence, you were on a podcast with Rob Douster and John Fanta. Of the 3 of you, who is the biggest basketball nerd?
That's a good one. As far as strictly analytics is concerned, I would go Dauster. From a storyline perspective of everything that goes on around the game, that's Fanta. Actually watching the game and seeing the angles and how it goes, that's where I thrive. Okay. So it kind of depends on where you go. So I didn't answer your question. I artfully dodged that one. But it depends on what kind of nerd you're talking about.
It is tough. Look, we've had John on lots of times, and every time I hang up the phone, I'm like, I feel like I got to watch 20 more games right now just to even gather what he just did. Watch him doing tweets in the airport, just talking about the game he's going to is unbelievable too. So.
Yeah, he is. I will say this about John. He's nonstop. He is phenomenal at what he does. He's great at storyline. Now, that all being said, Dauster played Division III ball. I obviously played in the ACC. John, didn't play, but he loves the game so much, and he's so passionate about it. The way he explains everything going on, the lead up to it. I mean, we all provide a little bit of something different, right, within that podcast, which is why it works, I think, more than anything. But John, I'm telling you, this guy eats, sleeps, and breathes it. It is nonstop. For me, if I do 6 games in 7 days, that 7th day, I at least need until about 2 o'clock just to kind of unwind. Not John. He can go and go and go and go. It is one of the most remarkable things I've seen, and he just never quit.
He's a great guest, and so are you, Terrence. We appreciate your feedback, insight, and experience. Appreciate your time. Have a great week with your games, and we'll talk to you again hopefully during or right before the NCAA tournament.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Terrence Oglesby, the Field of 68, with Douster, Rob Douster, obviously, John Fant, Jeff Goodman, Terrence Oglesby, former Clemson player, as he mentioned. And I saw just a 15-second clip or 45-second clip, and someone, Douster was asking a question, and then Oglesby just went straight to his phone. He was on, I guess, Skype at the time, and here comes Rocky Top. When we come back, we started at 1. We're about to wrap it up. Hope you've enjoyed the different perspective from you, from us, from obviously Gus Malzahn, Chris Pezman, Kalani Sitake, and then the basketball with Terrence Oglesby. Paul Catalina's Top 5 next on 365 Sports.
Kick off the new year at the Start Something New sales event. Get up to $2,500 in total values and 1.9% for 72 months on the new 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with second and third row seating options. The Start Something New sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Today, it's 3:54.
Yeah, so the Top 5 at 3:54. Doesn't have as much of a ring to it, but works. It's fine. It is the Top 5. So Top 5 big reveals on the Big 12 schedule, and I understand that this might not be the Top 5 biggest ones, but from the first 20 minutes of us reading the schedule, this is what I got out of it. Number 5, BYU might have the toughest schedule overall of the newbies, in that they have let's see, where's BYU? Their non-conference already has Arkansas. Then on the road at Kansas, TCU on the road, Tech, Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State might be the toughest of the new entrance into the Big 12. Again, that's going to remain to be seen. We don't even know about it, but that one is pretty tough, especially when you throw in your already scheduled non-conference game against Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, that should be a pretty fun ride for Kalani Sitake and crew. I mean, to get Texas and Oklahoma, and some teams aren't playing either one of them, should be a real boon for them. And have the big road trip to Austin, be able to get in front of, I'm sure, so a lot of recruits and whatnot, and just being a good stadium and different experience. I know BYU played there, but for Sitake, I mean, as he mentioned, he wasn't there when they played, so I'm sure that'll be cool for him and cool for that team. And they play them both within a month, and like you said, get Oklahoma State, get Arkansas earlier in the year, get TCU, get Tech. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. So, yeah, curious to see kind of how their preseason predictions go.
Yeah. Number 4, K-State and Oklahoma State have the early bye week and play 8 straight to end the year. So
TCU had that this year?
Yeah, TCU had that this year. TCU actually this year has the latest bye week. They play 8 straight to start the year. So I'm not sure which of those two things is better. I maybe would rather have a later bye week, although Kalani Sitake said he liked theirs kind of in the middle this year, which they never have really had as an FBS independent. But 8 straight to end the year for K-State and Oklahoma State is going to be interesting. Oklahoma State's and each of them play each other to begin that 8 straight. They come off the bye, they play each other, and then they play 8 straight. So to me, I'd rather have it a little bit later so I didn't have to play 8 on the back end. But that kind of jumped out at me there.
Yeah, that'll be tough. I mean, kind of deflates some of it, though, when you talk about TCU just did this. And, I mean, granted, it didn't result in, a Big 12 or national title, but they did have the playoff win and obviously had the perfect regular season. So it's doable, but definitely is not any easy task. And, I mean, again, Oklahoma State's got all 4 of the new schools in their last 5 games, and then Oklahoma right after Cincinnati. But, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, UCF, Houston, BYU. I mean, if there is a learning curve, then they're getting 4 schools that are all on a learning curve in their last 5 games. So if you handle your business in the first half of the year, you might be set up pretty well. But, I mean, who the heck knows what they're going to look like by next year with all the turnover there.
Yeah. Number 3, 8 home games for Baylor. One of the things we said for months and months and months going through Baylor's schedule last year was that they not only had tough road games, they had the tough road games in places that they had not won a whole lot. At Texas, at Iowa State, which they did win, but those kind of things they had to deal with.
Yeah, they won in Norman and Ames, and Lubbock.
Yeah, but those are places historically. But at least now, on the other side of that, they have a fantastic home schedule. They've got their 3 non-conference games at home, which does include Utah. You got Texas at home. You've got Tech at home. Iowa State, Houston, and West Virginia all at home. Not going to West Virginia might be, honestly, like the best gift in this one-off schedule that Baylor could have gotten. Yeah. Because they've never won there. So 8 home games, again, the rosters of most of the league are totally in flux right now. So to really be able to say, like, that's a great matchup or not, we didn't really know who Baylor is on offense right now, given the offensive line, wide receivers, all that stuff is going to be really, really interesting as it develops. But they do have 8 home games, so they need to make that to their advantage and go, I would hope, at least 6-2 in those.
2 of their 4 conference games on the road are against 2 of the incoming schools in UCF, which that's a crazy atmosphere. And then in Cincinnati, Nippert, which is known for a heck of an atmosphere too.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the first month at home, they could be 2-2 very easily. They could also be 2-3 by the time Tech's done. I'm seeing a lot of already predictions of that Tech's going to win that Baylor game. I mean, I think we need to see some more information, but that's one that could be a toss-up. But I'm just seeing that, like, when people are making their predictions and whatnot, it's just like that's an automatic. And, I mean, I don't know. I think they're pretty close regardless of how the season's ended. I don't think there's that much separation, but maybe there will be. We'll see. But, yeah, I mean, if that doesn't go Baylor's way and Tech gets a little, payback for losing at home last year, then they could be looking at 2-3 right in the face at home in the first 5 games of the home schedule, which would be massively disappointing if you were 2-3 after 5 home games. But UCF's also in there, so they could be 3-3, I guess. But I'm just talking strictly those first 5 home games. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle that first month. I think that'll set the tone for how the rest of it goes. Will be how they hang with Utah and Texas, and how those 2 results go.
It might be, and I don't know this for a fact but this might be the earliest they've played Texas in perhaps in a long time.
Yeah, I don't personally remember them ever playing them in my tenure here, which is in its second decade.
They had the 6-0 start in 2016. That was the year from transition.
Yeah,
and hell. But that game was like week 7.
Yeah, so
I don't. Maybe there's one that slipped in. I don't remember that.
In my opinion, this is the best home schedule that Baylor has ever had, as far as opponents coming in. When you throw Utah, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Houston, West Virginia, all in there, that is a fantastic home slate. Especially non-conference wise, they've never had someone as good as Utah. I mean, Cam Rising going to be here. Like, do you think about the quarterbacks that they're going to play across the schedule? But before the bye week, they're going to play Cam Rising. They're going to play Quinn Ewers, both at home, John Rice Plumlee and Shuck. So, I mean, I think it's going to be – that's a great schedule with 3 of those dudes coming into Waco.
Yeah, we'll see with Cam Rising. Need to see more health updates on him as the offseason goes along, because I don't know if there's something that maybe gets him off to a slow start, or if, he's ready for the non-con. I don't know based on what I saw the last time around. But, yeah, I mean, that's definitely the best team that I've seen roll in, all due respect to BYU. That's a bit of a step up, in terms of now BYU's familiar. So who would you say it's going to be? Probably Utah. So, yeah, to have played 2 hated rivals like that in back-to-backs kind of unique and just strange luck. But, yeah, that's going to be one that I think a lot of people get really geared up for. But they got to handle that first month, and how they do that will be imperative to the rest of the slate.
A back-to-back Power 5 conference champion in Utah coming in here.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. They've never had that before. Number 2, Oklahoma State host the last Bedlam on November 4th, which I thought maybe they would do this one at the end just out of sentimentality, but they didn't at November 4th. And Oklahoma State gets to host it. So that might have been maybe the little jab at Oklahoma that on the schedule that you got one more Bedlam, and nobody we had on today said that especially Chris Pezman, who would be in this, said, about another year. It's a kind of a one-off schedule, but the last Bedlam probably is going to be in Stillwater and not Norman.
Yeah, I mean, probably as it should be. I mean, Oklahoma State's the one that's sticking around, so, I'm not sure what all went into those decisions, but I think that's only right. I think there's certain things that you did take into account if you were making this schedule up, and I'm not sure how much human influence there actually was versus the algorithm they use or whatever. But, I think it's fitting that Oklahoma's having to play at Stillwater on their way out, if it's in fact their way out, which we still don't know for sure yet, but good hunch that it probably is. But, yeah, that only seems fair.
By the way, Sir Bob blah, blah. Not true about Utah, BYU on the Pac-12 in 2021 when they had that great year. At number 1, Paxton, you're right. Texas at Houston, October 21st. This is something we talked about for a long time. The Big 12 made it happen. Had to, especially if Texas, being in the last year, had to make sure that this game happened. It did. It's going to be a great atmosphere. I hope for Houston fans' sake that they don't get overwhelmed with burnt orange in there. But that means that they're going to have to buy up all those tickets before they do hit the secondary market. So once they do, then you're probably in trouble, because there are a lot of burnt orange people in Houston, Texas.
Well, there's a lot everywhere.
Yeah, but especially in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be pretty disappointing on Houston's end to not have it more of a red crowd than a burnt orange crowd, but I understand how those things can work. But I mean, this is why you joined the Big 12, was to play, games like this. Granted, you're only going to get probably this one opportunity to do it, but I sure as heck hope that after all these years of waiting and knowing what it's like to be on the other side of things, that with Texas rolling into town, the gift you've been given for that atmosphere will be taken full advantage of. And if not, then that's one of your first major missteps in Big 12 play, would be not taking advantage of that. But I'm sure Houston fans will, and that should be a rowdy game.
All right, one of the questions that's on the chat room is there any statistic about what the records are for teams that play at home in college football compared to on the road? The last time I saw this, and TJ Scott, I went to Google, it's a 20.3% better average or percentage of winning at home than it is on the road. And again, that's been 5 years, so I don't know, but that's probably about right. And maybe it changes occasionally, I don't know, by year to year. All right, thanks to Chris Pezman of Houston, Gus Malzahn, UCF. Thanks as well to Kalani Sitake at Brigham Young. Thanks to Terrence Oglesby, the Field of 68. Garrett Ross and Craig Smoak have been on for a long, long time, ready to hit the road a little bit early today. Jack McKenzie, great stuff from you as well. Thanks for the suggestion from Brian Etheridge. Paul Catalina, thank you. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Enjoy. The schedule's out, and now we continue to dissect it. All of you, text line, chat room, and our incredible sponsors. I'm David Smoak. Stay dry, stay safe, stay warm. Good night, good afternoon, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI.